Well, hello everyone and welcome. Christian Nix here. Welcome to today's training session. So glad you made it because today I get to pass along a skill that has completely changed my life and career. The skill I'm going to teach to you today is how to present to MD physicians about acupuncture and TCM without sounding like an idiot, even if you have no experience as a public speaker, because I am often asked how to approach and communicate with other conventional medical professionals. My big secret to doing all of this is a little formula I created through a good old-fashioned hardcore experience and of course tons of hard work. When I walk you through this formula, you will see that every major talking point you would ever have to discuss with mainstream medical professionals is covered. But what may not be obvious is the psychology of why you must talk to MDs in a certain way, and so I will explain what that psychology is and how and why I'm going to do it as we go along. In fact, the formula I have created for doing this so completely over-delivers on the essential questions and points of confusion they simply need to have clarified that you really cannot fail to earn their respect and gain a steady source of referrals if you deliver it correctly and in a language they understand and respect. Physician referrals equals respect and income. To be even more specific, this is the same formula I have used in front of MDs from coast to coast for the last dozen years to build an absolutely incredible life and career and to become one of the most knowledgeable and sought-after teachers on this topic in our profession in North America and elsewhere. So whether you're a veteran practitioner who has reached a plateau in private practice in terms of growth and income, or whether you're a student fresh out of school and just getting into real-world practice, or even if you're still in school, it's never too early or too late to learn about and master this one skill of presenting to and communicating effectively with MD physicians and other mainstream medical professionals and administrators. Once you learn a step-by-step process of reaching out to and approaching mainstream physicians and presenting to them in a way they understand and respect and will respond to, your whole career becomes pretty easy with regard to the getting of patients and the earning of high-level income. I ought to know. I have lived it, and I've taught this incredibly valuable skill to others. So today I'm going to teach you how to present about what you do in a way that sets you apart and gets you noticed and respected as a reliable and trustworthy authority in your area or field of expertise, even if you have a mortal fear of speaking and are terrified of being rejected or ostracized by people who don't understand the value of what we do. And I'm going to teach you how to speak to MD physicians and other mainstream medical professionals about what you do in a language they understand and respect so that even if you are shy and introverted, the sheer quality and value of your message will still get you respected and noticed and seen as an expert in the eyes of your audience members. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to do all of this, how to impress physicians in a language they understand, how to present to physicians and other mainstream medical professionals about what we do, how to set yourself apart from the new age crowd in a way that earns you respect, referrals, and income and prestige in your local area and field of specialty expertise. And I'm going to do all of this in one simple and proven approach that saves you years of struggle and that will add more value to your career than any other CEU offering or CEU conference, or even, I believe, all of your years of schooling combined. I'm going to teach you this process that I've developed and used over the past 7+ years to present to physicians and administrators from Virginia to California, New York to Chicago, and even at the world-famous Cleveland Clinic by detailing for you some of the essential teaching points I learned and extracted from 3 case study examples of presentations I have done that really cover all of the essential points you would ever need to learn in order to craft your own successful presentation to physicians. I'm going to teach you this so that you can overcome what I perceive as the 3 biggest obstacles to successful communication skills, which are scarcity and third-class status, the issue of why bother, the historical moment is now and you can use it to your advantage, and the language of mainstream medicine and how to avoid the label of New Age nutcase when speaking about holism. Just so you know, I'm going to take my teaching material and lessons from the following 3 real-world presentations. The first example I will use is my talk at Mercy Hospital to OB/GYN residents. Then I'm going to walk you through my presentation at Cleveland Clinic to the psychiatry department. This talk was a tectonic shift for me in my career. After Cleveland Clinic, I never had any fear or doubt about my ability to succeed in the mainstream. Once you see and hear this, you too will be amazed by what is possible. Lastly, I'm going to walk you through the most critical question that you must be ready to answer in order to guarantee your own success in 21st century healthcare delivery. This is taken straight from my collaborative work with Dr. Paul Rafford, Bridging the Chasm. which has really set the standard for professional quality communication between acupuncturists and physicians. Stick around to the end and I'll tell you how you can get a free copy of this indispensable work. So in other words, what I'm saying here is that you don't have to wonder if it works or if it's effective and will be well received. Each of the 3 examples I will detail works well to this day because they all use the same elements and the same basic process, i.e. the same basic content and structure for effective communication with physicians. My primary goal for you today is to prove to you within the next 75 minutes that every single person who wants to can do the following 3 things. You can learn how to impress physicians and avoid the obscurity of being tagged as just another New Age crackpot. You can bridge the chasm and learn to adapt and adopt the lingo of physicians and mainstream medicine so that you can speak in a language that conventional medical professionals understand and respect about what you do. You can approach medical professionals and administrators with an honest-to-goodness, value-added proposition and with no fear of rejection. Now, you may be asking yourself, why should you care about this now? Why is any of this important to you at all, and why now especially? Well, in case there is someone watching and listening right now who has lived in a cave for the last decade or more, let me just cite the survey done in 2007 by our own NCCAOM in collaboration with some of the other folks who care about this subject matter. If you're not familiar with this survey, you really should be, because it highlights the exact points that I'm going to make in this talk as the absolute most important ingredient that is still missing within the acupuncture profession. Learning this one skill of how to communicate like a professional with our conventional medical colleagues is the single most important thing you can do right now and for the foreseeable future. This is the one area of expertise that can change your life for good. And by change your life, I mean you will never struggle again in your career to get enough patients to earn a decent living. I mean that this one skill can so completely set you apart from other practitioners that you will finally get the respect and income you deserve. It really is that simple. So while everyone else is either ignoring the importance of this skill or spending hours on Facebook or wasting money on throwing health fairs and open houses or doing lunch and learns that get them exactly no more business than they had before, you will be going straight to the number one best source of high-quality, compliant patients from the essentially inexhaustible source that is mainstream medical physicians. When you know exactly how to present yourself and your skills to physicians and mainstream medical professionals and administrators in a way that they understand and respect, you have the ability to get business on demand pretty much anywhere you go. Let me just tell you that I struggled for several years in my career. I sulked, I complained, I begged people to listen to me and to give me a shot. I knew I had something valuable and worthwhile. I was bitter that I should even have to learn how to communicate in the lingo of mainstream medicine. So if that sounds a little too much like your own experience and attitude, let me save you from a lot of frustration and from years of struggle and failure. Reality is what it is, and the reality of our situation is that it is your responsibility to reach out to the mainstream if you want a better career. They are not going to magically and coincidentally discover you because you have a superior talent. It just doesn't work that way. In fact, even if you are a killer clinician, there is one skill that matters even more. If you are paying attention at all, I am sure some of you can even tell already just what that skill is. In any case, after I was done with a brief period of kvetching, I slowly began to learn this skill set and, lucky for all of you, I took good notes along the way so that I could teach what I was learning to others who came after me. I've had several breakthroughs during my career, and now, with all modesty, I am in a very small club within our profession of the folks who make serious money and who have left a struggle for success, respect, income, and prestige behind, so that I even take several months a year of true vacation time to do other things and to pursue what I want outside of medicine. In fact, I'm actually writing this in beautiful Buenos Aires, where my wife and I have come for our honeymoon and for a 2.5-month break before we go on a Caribbean cruise to the British Virgin Islands and then on to visit my property in the highlands of Central America. Oh, and then I will be on a small North American tour holding free workshops to help folks with mainstream quality clinical skills. So stay in touch because this boot camp intensive format can save you years of figuring out how to really deliver like a pro in clinic. Who knows, I may even offer some of you a position to come work with a medical education company I represent. Not a bad gig if you can get it. So, now it's getting close to game time and you're about to get a ton of value in exchange for your time and attention, which I appreciate. So please turn off your phone, shut down Facebook, get a pen and paper, and get ready to take some serious notes. Let me just cover a little bit more about my background and the specific qualifications I have earned and achieved so you know exactly why I am qualified to teach you about this topic, because my tale and my career are sui generis in our profession, and this has a lot to do with why you are here, whether you realize it or not. I will do my best to keep my story mercifully short, and I will tell it in pieces as I go along so as not to bore you or slow down the important material. In any case, my journey in medicine is not only relevant to what I have learned and what I have to share with you, I think you will agree that it's also one hell of a good story. I began my study of medicine starting in 1999 in the forest of rural Guatemala. I did not go to any institution to learn my clinical skills. I actually found a mentor, and this was back when doing a mentorship apprenticeship was still possible. This is simply wonderful for me for a few reasons. One of these reasons is that my own mentor already had lots of experience working alongside MDs and other medical professionals, so I got a comparative methodology from him from the very beginning of my training. In 2004, I gave my first presentation to physicians at a medical conference on the lake in Guatemala where I live. That was the real beginning of my journey to master this one topic, because I understood even back then that this would turn out to be the real money skill. In 2005, I sat for my NCCAOM board exam and passed, but I quickly realized that I did not necessarily see myself merely as a clinician working for somebody else. So I did what anyone in my position would have done. I went back to school. From 2005 to 2008, I was a master's degree student at a quirky little East-West psychology school in the Mission District of San Francisco. For me, this experience was a teacher training degree, plain and simple. It forced me to read to the point of saturation about this topic of East-West integration in medicine, and it allowed me to develop and communicate about my ideas on the important and largely unanswered questions and issues relating to integration in medicine. The result of that degree was a 2-volume work titled Tao of Integration. Check it out on Amazon if you haven't already read it. In 2008, I began my first hospital teaching clinic and began hosting and mentoring students just as I myself had been mentored. This was my first real immersion into hospital culture, and it taught me volumes about the needs of MDs dealing with 21st century patients and the enormous prevalence of chronic conditions and the frustration these patients cause for conventional physicians. In 2009, I teamed up with an MD colleague in Denver, and from 2010 to mid-2014, I traveled the world, from the Middle East to South America and all across North America many times, speaking and teaching at major institutions like the University of Virginia Medical School in Charlottesville, Virginia, Cleveland Clinic, a UCSF satellite clinic in Santa Rosa, California, Stony Brook University Medical Center on Long Island, as well as a 2-year stint at Mercy Hospital in Chicago. While all of this travel, training, and teaching was going on, I was setting up and running hospital clinics in both Guatemala and Chicago, always learning about hospital culture and how to communicate effectively. In both my hospital clinics, I had permission to teach and so trained other practitioners from 2008 to 2013. I was called upon numerous times to give formal presentations. During this time, I briefly wrote my own column for Acupuncture Today about mainstream practice, but I also penned 2 more books on this topic, including Hospital-Based Acupuncture Essentials and the book I co-authored with Dr. Rafford, Bridging the Chasm: How to Talk to Physicians About What Matters to Them. I don't know anyone who has done more teaching on this topic than I have. Mostly it was damn hard work and very difficult and draining. But I think you will agree, once you see what I have to share with you, that it was all worth it. What gives me the right to think so? Well, I will let you judge for yourself, but the fact is, a lot of folks in our profession simply don't get it. No amount of evidence can convince some people that communication is simply indispensable to your career success right now. And, as a corollary, you cannot communicate in a way that doctors don't understand and will not respect. You simply must learn the right way to do this. In our strangely morally relativistic profession, ideas of right and wrong are dismissed and resisted. But if you will accept that there is a right way to do this, and will get busy learning what that right way is, you can make enormous career success happen in such a short period of time that it seems to me that the whole thing is inarguable. You decide what you want, but after this webinar, you can no longer claim that no one told you how it is or that you never had an opportunity to do something to help yourself. You can only take the blame for not acting on what you were presented. Lots of folks think that success, income, respect, and prestige are simply a matter of getting a degree and then sitting in a nice office somewhere while patients pour in, and when this doesn't happen, that something must be wrong with everybody else. Far too many practitioners have a chip on their shoulder because they are somehow owed a successful career. Others send me fantastic hate emails about what I do and because I have chosen to reach out to the mainstream, and that this somehow makes me a traitor or whatever their thinking actually is. Lots of people want the results that I have demonstrated, but most simply won't do the work and are just plain lazy. So let me just set out the following guidelines for your success today and for the rest of your career. Number 1, your clinical skills are not enough. Number 2, if you want big results, you need to do things differently from what the majority is doing. Number 3, copy what successful people are doing and get it done quickly. Number 4, no ticky, no laundry. If you won't do the work, you simply don't deserve success. You have to have and maintain this kind of ethic in every endeavor in life. So let me just finish this little introductory portion by setting the ground rules as well. First of all, get motivated or get lost. I'm not a big motivational speaker, and I find it tedious to hear so many people who need motivation. If you're an adult, you need to motivate yourself. Number 2, if you expect to get results without doing some work, you are delusional. Number 3, if you think doing the exact things that everyone else is doing because you like the security of feeling like part of the tribe or part of the herd, you will get the same lousy results that they all get. I promise you this. And number 4, if you will get busy tackling this topic, you can see almost overnight successful changes in your career. Now, I know some of you may be thinking that such claims smack of hyperbole and marketing flash and dazzle, but it really is true. Over and over again in my own career and among the students I have taught, it somehow seems to happen that once you begin to put yourself out and trying to reach out to the mainstream, doors open, and they open quickly. This is one of the rare situations in life, and even rarer situations in medicine, where your merit and effort will be rewarded quickly and commensurate to your value. The need right now is so great, and there is almost zero competition in this one single realm of mainstream practice. I can also tell you right now that if you have problems being motivated for success and high income, or if you feel like you should have a great career because you simply deserve it or because mommy and daddy said so, or if you have trouble getting yourself in gear to get work done, or if you just don't feel genuine excitement about what I'm going to teach you in the next 75 minutes, then this program is not for you. You must realize on your own that what the majority of people are doing in our profession is not working. It has been this way for decades. Schools do not have any real answers for you about how to create a successful career, and taking tons of clinical CEU training programs so you can get a little bit better, or even a lot better, in clinic can only ever produce marginal and incremental gains. In other words, the big fish is mainstream practice. That means a different approach is called for. Logically, acceptance by mainstream MD physicians and the ability to confidently offer something of value to these people, including and especially the ability to communicate clearly about the value that you offer, these things are of inestimable value to you in your career right now. So if you want big-time success in front of any audience and you're willing to work a little and think for yourself without the whole herd mentality and all the disempowerment that such a mentality implies, then I promise I will not let you down or waste your time. So if you already sense that, hey, this is just what I've been looking for and exactly what no one else in our profession teaches, this is the missing piece that nearly everyone needs, then let's get started. In the last analysis of your life, there's only one person responsible for what did or didn't happen to you. If you want success, you must first have something valuable that others want, and you must reach out and offer your value to others. So if you don't get this whole dynamic or just want the world to be a different way than it actually is, then this isn't going to work very well for you. And one more thing, I make a terrific living and have pretty much done exactly what I damn well please from the beginning of my career. I do not make any claim or promise that your results will be as spectacular as mine have been, simply because I don't have any way to predict or control what you will or won't do with this material. But what I can promise you is that if you will take simple steps, follow a winning formula, and are willing to put in a few weeks of serious work, then your career can indeed take off in a very satisfying way that gives you income, time off, freedom, and prestige. If all of that sounds like it's worth it to you, then let's get going because you are in exactly the right place. The best, smartest, and fastest way to get good at something fast is to find someone or some approach that is already working and to model what that person is doing as best as you can so that you are not trying to test and figure it all out on your own from scratch. So sit up straight because that is exactly what you get a chance to do right now. Okay? Let's get started. Okay, here we go. First of all, any successful presentation to physicians and mainstream medical professionals must, number 1, be based on a language they understand. Number 2, be addressed to the exact 5 to 7 questions or issues that just about all mainstream medical professionals have with regard to acupuncture. Number 3, must handle all the common objections and clarify all of the confusion of points and issues that are likely to arise. And number 4, it must position you as the obvious authority with whom they would love to do business. The above criteria are crucial because what it means is that you have a structure and a framework that allows you to edit, tweak, and make improvements as you learn and grow, and that it is a simple and repeatable process. Now, when I began my career in medicine, I was as deep as anyone into the unique cultural perspective that is revealed by studying Chinese medicine and Asian culture and holistic concepts. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that I was deeper into it than most people ever go. You see, I was living in a treehouse in the forest of Guatemala among Maya Indians, and I met a kind of medicine man, a no-kidding barefoot doctor, and I had a chance to study with him that I simply could not say no to. So, from the beginning, I was hyper-aware that I was learning a whole new worldview than the one that we consider obvious in North America. Now, I am a teacher by nature, and so I started putting together my own material about what I was learning while I was learning it. Long story short, I knew at the time that I was having a simply incredible experience while I was having it, and that it would be valuable to share with others at some future date. I returned to the U.S. in 2005 and received my board certification from NCCAOM, and also decided to push through a 2-year program in integrative medical administration, something like an MPH but for East-West medicine, or so I believed. It turned out to be the best and hardest trial of my life and career. The professors were, well, let's just say they had big agendas with respect to race and gender and a few other isms that tend to create a lot of useless argument in modern American society. If you have lived in San Francisco, you know what I'm talking about, because you really do get this whole politically correct shit show there more than anywhere else I know of. So my 2-year program became a 3-year teaching degree and led me to an utterly unique insight and perspective about East-West integration in medicine. I wrote about this unique perspective in my first 2 books, Tao of Integration, Volumes 1 and 2. By 2008, I was traveling and teaching full-time and had created my own hospital teaching clinics, where I would also mentor students. In 2009, I met and befriended a colleague in Denver, and this is where things started to get really interesting. I was traveling the world learning and teaching, but, once again, I also had access to another excellent mentor who was something of an expert on Chinese medical research. So not only was I getting huge doses of real-life experience and all the learning that comes from trial and error, I also had another sounding board for continuing to massage my own teaching and concepts so that I could really reach the folks I most needed to influence, i.e. MDs and mainstream medical professionals and administrators. As you will see throughout this presentation and throughout all of my work on this topic, my association with Paul and with other mentors has allowed me some key and excellent insights about how to bridge the all-important communication chasm. There were several other key breakthroughs along the way. One of these happened when another colleague and I pitched a major hospital in Chicago about including an acupuncture clinic within the main building. They agreed to give us carte blanche and even allowed us to use their space as a teaching clinic and to prescribe herbal remedies. This was all prior to Cleveland Clinic getting on board with the same idea. Just after we became established at Mercy Hospital, I was invited to Cleveland Clinic to deliver a grand rounds to the psychiatry department. Now, this is perhaps the most famous hospital in the U.S. and one of the top institutions in the world. If you haven't been, it's like the Las Vegas of hospitals. I won't go into detail, but you almost need to go see it for yourself. My point is that you would definitely expect these people to be on top of something as brain-dead simple as how to leverage acupuncture's inclusion for their patients, and you would be wrong. Remember, this was 2012. This talk was a real turning point for me because after Cleveland Clinic, it finally dawned on me that even at the highest level of conventional medicine, the questions and confusion about what we do by mainstream physicians and the formula for bridging the communication chasm with the mainstream is exactly the same anywhere you go. There was no substantive difference between Cleveland Clinic and any other institution or individual physician I had ever spoken to before or since. This should really encourage you, and I hope it does, because it means that there is now, and not likely to be in the immediate future, any lack of places to speak and people to present to. The point of me recounting these various trials and successes is to point out that speaking skills are, hands down, the most important skills that you can cultivate. Many LACs I meet and talk to seem to believe this in a hazy and unambitious way, but not in any manner that suggests they will actually take action to step up to this challenge. So before I go any further, let me just point out that learning medicine is a hell of a lot harder than learning how to speak about what we do. In fact, like most other skills, you absolutely do not need to freak out or bury yourself in gloom about how impossible it would be to achieve some proficiency as an effective speaker. Like most other skills, you find someone who is already doing it well and successfully, and you model and mimic what actually works until you get the hang of it and become competent. Competence always leads to confidence. Remember this as I go through the rest of today's material, because the people who understand that, well, it really just isn't that hard to model someone who is already successful, will go very far, very fast with this, simply because the opportunity is so enormous. All of this is really just a long and necessarily detailed way of showing you that if you feel like, or have ever felt like, that you have a wonderful skill and gift to share, but that MDs and mainstream medical professionals just do not and cannot understand you enough to even give you a shot, or if you feel certain that you want to make it at the highest level of medicine, whether to positively impact patients' lives or to earn more money, or for the mere personal pride and satisfaction that comes with recognition that you are the real deal, then I absolutely know how you feel. This is exactly where I was coming from as well. I felt the same way for years while I struggled to find the right recipe, the secret formula, if you will, that could give me what I desired. And this is what I discovered. By 2014, my speaking and presenting skills had gotten me to the kind of practice and income that now allows me to work when and where I want and to pursue other interests, like mentoring other practitioners who want to move in the same direction I did and who want to achieve similar results in their career. But more important to me than money, prestige, and lifestyle is the incredible satisfaction of knowing that I can go anywhere and speak to anyone in front of any audience or group and get respect, and also make people take action based on what I have taught them. So, what is the secret? What did I discover, and how could you benefit from my efforts and success? Well, here it is. There are essentially 12 key points that go into making any successful presentation to physicians. Now, you can use them in whatever order you wish, to a point, and if you do even a decent job on all of these and don't just freeze up or swallow your tongue, you are practically guaranteed to win them over and create understanding out of confusion. Remember, the whole reason you should even care about presenting to physicians is that once you identify yourself as the number one top-level acupuncturist in their world, or even just the first acupuncturist who can clarify their questions and confusion on this topic, well, getting referrals from them is as simple as asking for them. And remember also that getting referrals from MDs is about as easy a prospective patient as you will ever get. Think about it. If you are a patient and your physician tells you that you need to go to acupuncture for your nagging problems, you're going. End of discussion. That's it. There's no more question or debate about it. So getting referrals makes every part of your job easier. That is why physician referrals are by far the biggest untapped market for acupuncturists, but even more important in my mind, patients from physician referrals are also better patients who are more amenable and tractable and will do what you need them to do because they are under a doctor's orders to see you. How valuable is that in your career? So it is not just a question of getting more traffic to your clinic or private practice. It is about having patients show up who are already predisposed to do exactly what you want them to do and to follow through with what they need in order for good results to occur. Think about that as opposed to treating the New Age fringe crowd type patients who want to argue with you over what they should or should not do because of what they read in some New Age magazine. I don't know about you, but such patients make me insanely tired with all of the teaching and coaching that must be done just to get them to shut up and go forward with my treatment plan. You get none of that with physician referral patients. In other words, patients coming to you from a mainstream medical setting are incredibly easy to work with. Now, let me go a little bit deeper into what I found. Your presentation to physicians is actually a sales presentation. Now, before you freak out, don't worry, because this is the easiest and softest sales pitch you will ever learn to do, because it's all just about teaching them anyway. I can hear some of you thinking, but if it's only about teaching them, then why is it about selling to them? Simple. You must use sales psychology in applying your 12-step checklist because selling is ultimately about persuasion. Once I learned and practiced a little with a simple sales structure and the basic psychology of a sales presentation, my entire life and career changed from that point onward. Let's just say that learning and applying this kind of thinking and speaking to physicians has been very good to me. So the reason my particular formula for presenting to physician works so well is because they have to do almost no work to understand what I am presenting. In other words, this formula meets them exactly where they are. Think about the mystery of understanding acupuncture and of MD's brains requiring 12 switches to be thrown in order for the light bulbs to all go on, and thus for an MD to really get it. And please remember, it is absolutely true that lots of young physicians and medical residents have no deep institutional bias about whether or not acupuncture is a legitimate medical therapy. So your ability to sell your point of view and your status as a real expert will only become easier as time passes, simply because fewer and fewer physicians will have any real sales resistance the more they become accustomed to and familiar with both acupuncture's presence in their medical world and the new research from the NIH. But that does not mean they automatically believe that you personally know your stuff and can reliably deliver quality treatments. Since this is about getting you paid and about furthering your career through referrals and greater authority, prestige, etc., you need to take very seriously your effort to throw all 12 of these switches so that it really does not matter if any given audience member is a hardcore skeptic or a young blood who is open and predisposed to your message. You want to be thorough and correct no matter who is in the room. To summarize this short section on why you must include some sales psychology in the creation and presentation of your talk to physicians, my 12-step secret formula is really about presenting high-level concepts related to a given topic, in this case acupuncture, and doing all of this according to a basic and effective sales presentation psychology. Why is the above so important? To be honest, it's not merely important, it's bloody crucial to the highest degree. Because a pure academic can easily get lost in layers of minutiae, the numbers, the facts, and the research data, but that is not what you are selling. Yes, you have to have all that stuff in order to be taken seriously. This is medicine, and it is expected. In fact, it only makes your sales job easier because the research is so completely in your favor right now. So sit tight, because I'm going to show you how to use all of this in a few more minutes. What you are selling is a solution to their problem. And what is their problem? One of the biggest clinical problems that nearly all MDs face right now comes from patients who are complaining that conventional medicine is not delivering a good outcome for them. Most physicians actually know this and are consciously aware of a short list of chronic comorbidities, you should learn to use this term and use it often, that most assuredly do not respond well to conventional approaches, but which, as you will be informing them, happen to be the exact conditions that acupuncture is inherently and ideally suited to treat. So ultimately, you are not actually selling acupuncture. You are only teaching about acupuncture. But you are selling less frustration, better clinical outcomes, and, for administrators anyway, less cost with greater patient outcomes and higher patient satisfaction. Now, perhaps you may have heard the marketing maxim that no one buys a drill because you actually want a drill. You buy a drill because you want a hole. Do you see the difference? Because it is possible to do a great job teaching and end up with no business or referrals at all. You teach them about acupuncture. This is purely for your own credibility and authority expert status in their eyes, and of course for their own edification. You sell them convenience and better results with patients, two things that most MDs value almost universally. You sell the benefits of your service. In other words, my friends, the order in which you present my 12-step checklist is important. It is. You need to respect this order simply because it helps the process that is necessary for you to profit from your efforts. You can be the best teacher in the world, and I encourage you to strive for that very achievement. But unless you like being broke, you need to teach them what I'm going to share with you in a manner that gets them to actually take action. Okay, so when all 12 switches have been switched on, you can then proceed to make an offer and close the sale, because these 12 switches being on amounts to a green light for presenting your solution and making a sale. Okay, so here we go into the meat of today's material. I just want to take one more minute to reiterate what I consider to be the three big obstacles facing most folks who are watching this. Now, if you have not thought of the modern situation this way, then this should be useful to you. Let me just deal with objections and obstacles numbers 1 and 2 first, and then the meat of the material will help you to overcome obstacle number 3. The major objections and obstacles for acupuncturists are Number one, the scarcity problem. How better to rid yourself of scarcity than to go where the majority of patients are and offer a solution to physicians who are definitely looking for help. Number two, most people wouldn't think of, but I perceive a why should I bother at all kind of issue. How does this even help me? Well, if you've paid attention at all to everything that I've said to this point, you already understand at least some portion of my answer to this. You must first be prepared to offer value before you can ask for and can reasonably expect someone to give you value in return. This is as true in our situation as acupuncturists seeking to earn more business as it is in any other venture I can think of. And then number three, how can I talk to physicians in a language they understand and respect? What if I come off like a new age idiot? Well, the truth is, this is not as tough as many people believe and make it out to be. I will cover all you really need to know in my 12-step formula. The first obstacle is one that is nearly universal for practitioners in North America and other Western countries. The scarcity thing is, at one and the same time, real, but it is also self-inflicted and personally subjective. It may be real to you personally in that you really do have days where only one or even zero patients actually show up. I hear this a lot, and I just bet that someone out there is watching this has suffered from this situation or is even suffering from it now. But it is also self-inflicted in another way because the market of people with pain, stress, and other chronic conditions which are not responding to conventional medicine is so enormous that I don't think there's any actual scarcity problem in objective reality. The issue, of course, is that you have to actually go where these people are and make them aware of your solution. And what is the obvious best strategy to make yourself useful to 21st century patients in mainstream medicine, lots of whom are dissatisfied with their current treatment outcomes? Think about this. If you are a patient with a stubborn chronic condition and your doctor, who is as frustrated as you are, throws up his hands and says, well, I'm out of answers and options, but this may be something that responds to acupuncture, so I want you to go to room number 10 and see the acupuncturist. You know what that patient is going to do? That patient is going, period. So the real question is, how do you get to be the guy or gal working in room number 10? The answer to scarcity in your personal career is physician referrals. This is so far and away the best single answer to any and all scarcity. Just one good presentation can change your career for all time. And there is a correct and incorrect way to go about getting these referrals. You get referrals by selling your skills and service to MDs and mainstream medical administrators inside mainstream medical settings, which is where you are needed most. But rather than presenting yourself as an actual salesperson, 'tis better by far to be a purveyor of value and valuable information. In my way of thinking, the only way to sell anything and avoid the perception that you are a salesperson is to position it as a valuable solution to a prospective client's pain or problems. If you do in fact have a valuable solution, then you actually have an obligation to sell your solution as hard and as far and wide as you possibly can. So you are not there to sell, but actually to teach, because it is by teaching that you become the obvious authority, and it is far better to offer your services, i.e. your solution, when the people you are offering it to clearly see you as an expert authority. But you actually are going to sell your expertise, because if you don't profit from all of this effort, there would be no point in going to all the trouble. So that knocks out objections number 1 and 2. I hope this is clear by now, because when you start feeling like a scumbag salesperson and getting dirty looks with people rolling their eyes, that is when you need to double down on your ability to teach and provide value. And when you have given them a great dose of real value, you need to go for the kill and offer your services, i.e. to sell your solution. And let me just take one more minute to address the issue of profit and money before I go on. Lots of holistic professionals and acupuncturists have a totally wrong-headed view of money and the proper purpose of work. Money is a measure of value. If you make tons of it by treating people with acupuncture, that means you have given a lot of value to a lot of people who gave you something valuable in exchange. Ignoring this metaphysical reality is like ignoring gravity. Whether you would agree with it or accept either fact, it still affects your life. So you should absolutely seek to get rich, whether from acupuncture or whatever else you do that offers legitimate value to others. Understanding money in its proper context means that becoming wealthy is a sign of great moral good. Okay, to summarize so far, getting referrals from MDs is not only the greatest source of total referrals that you can get, but the quality of patients that you are likely to receive from an MD referral is much higher. And by higher, I mean they are more disposed to do exactly what you tell them they must do, and thus your outcomes tend to be both better and easier to achieve. So don't be fooled by folks who claim to teach about practice management. and who know nothing and say nothing about this or whose solution is to tell you that you should go in and spout off about 5,000-year-old energy medicine, or that we don't know how acupuncture works. Why? If this was somehow a smart idea, no one would be broke and we would all be players in mainstream medicine already. The simple answer to obstacle number 2 is that if you don't care, then I don't either. But for the sake of going forward, I will assume that if you are still watching, that you do care. The answer to this objection to acupuncturists about learning this skill is to first realize that mainstream medicine is struggling with certain things in the 21st century. The things mainstream medicine and physicians are struggling with also happen to be the exact condition that acupuncture treats best. So, you must first be able and prepared to offer value to them, and only then can you ask for value in return, i.e. to make an offer and sell your services. So hopefully there is nothing else to add about why should I bother, how does this help me. Now, let's get into how you can do this, because you can do this. The third obstacle is the biggie, and this is where I'm going to spend the rest of our time learning and teaching. It is at this point that I quote a very successful newsletter writer whose work I read. He makes the point about finance and investing that there is no such thing as teaching, only learning. I tend to agree. Most people have weird reasons and prejudices about why they cannot learn something. My advice to you is to throw all that resistance out. Make up your mind that you are going to make it big in your career and that you will solve the riddle of becoming a player in the big time of mainstream medicine. It really isn't that hard to do once you have someone show you how. And that goes for students still in school as well as 20-year veterans. All that is really required is a little work and the willingness to learn how to do it. It ain't magic. Okay? This third obstacle is about learning to present to physicians in a lingo that they understand and respect so that you can avoid the oblivion of being labeled as a New Age nut job. It also means getting clear on what biomedical research really has to tell us about how acupuncture works. Don't put your head in the sand over this issue because it can make or break your entire career practically overnight, and the research that almost no one in our profession seems to want to take the time to learn about is absolutely in your favor right now. Warning. Once you have been labeled a New Age idiot, you really have no chance at getting physician referrals. The thing about learning the lingo of mainstream medicine is that it makes it so easy to avoid the trap of New Age oblivion. It's actually so easy not to be labeled New Age that I'm astonished that more people haven't taken this approach. Now, I'm going to give you my 12-step formula for creating a successful presentation to physicians. Once again, keep in mind that the truth is that you can present these 12 essential points in whatever order you wish. As I have said above, these 12 steps do not necessarily have to be done in the order that I am going to give them. But the reason why you probably should do them, more or less in the order that I will detail for you, is because it makes your offer very natural and non-salesy, which really does matter with doctors especially. So the danger of doing this without a specific order is that your sales psychology becomes lost and ineffective. But with a certain logical order, the psychology that you are offering something valuable and that it is a solution to their frustration is self-evident. It makes your job much easier when you go to ask for the sale, which is actually nothing more than offering your services. Keep in mind that these 12 switches are nothing other than the 12 items that I have identified as being the exact questions and concerns or the specific evidence that you must provide in order to be taken seriously by mainstream medical professionals and administrators. Okay, here we go. My 12-step formula for successful presentations to physicians. Step number 1, have a handout. This is really a preliminary bit of homework that you should do beforehand. I have found that it is always useful to have an actual handout when you go in to give a presentation, any presentation. The idea is to summarize and leave them with a single takeaway message so that they can recall your presentation at a glance. One page is plenty, and it should be something that reminds them or impresses upon them your key message that what I do is different, that I am different, and that my service is somehow valuable because. The reason why is left blank at the end of that sentence simply because it depends on which aspect or aspects you wish to emphasize. This will become clearer as we create our presentation, but just understand for now that it is important that you give them a reason why they should value and trust you. So, let's go on to step number 2. Step number 2, ask enrolling questions. I learned years ago that you do not want to skip this step because of what it does in the minds of your audience members, and Because no matter how good and polished you are as a public speaker, if you do a talk about something that nobody cares about, they will not be impressed. Now, obviously, they know why you are there and what you are there to speak about. But the point is to feel out the audience and break the invisible barrier that makes for sterile and uncomfortable presentations. You are not really there just to dialogue, but you do want the feeling and appearance in their mind that in fact you are just coming in to chat and share some interesting and valuable information with them. This step actually lets you take total control of the room. If someone asks about or indicates they have an interest in XYZ, and XYZ is the exact question you are about to answer, then you get to foreshadow your talking points and get real clarity on what they care to learn and hear about most. I cannot overstress the essential importance of this key step. This builds excitement and interest so there is no 10 to 20 minute lag time wherein the audience is trying to decide if they're actually going to give you any attention and will do you the courtesy of listening or not. I have seen doctors actually take out their iPhones and start texting right during a presentation, right in the front row. Ouch. Not interested. You don't want to see this, and you damn sure don't want it happening to you because it is not pretty. Also, what inevitably happens during this step is that you find both allies and enemies. Both will pretty much self-identify. What I mean by this is that when you get an audience into your presentation from the beginning by asking them what they care about, what a concept, eh? The people who are riveted and to whom you can return for commentary and dialogue at a later point in your presentation will give you a nod and a welcoming vibe. In the same manner, the jokers who are going to be hostile or combative will likewise show their hand here. It is better to know if someone is going to be difficult at the outset than to have them disrupt and derail your entire presentation when you are trying to finish and close the sale. Now, most physicians are incredibly complimentary of and receptive to a quality presentation. But when I first started out doing this, of course, I had my share of difficult audience members. I'm not going to go into all the specific advanced tactics I have developed that you can use on such people because it really is quite rare, and I cover it in other teaching material which I will tell you about later. So for now, think up a half a dozen or so enrolling questions and base them on your presentation material so that you are leading them exactly where you want them to go. If you struggle to think up enrolling questions, remember that the simplest open-ended question is simply this. Quote, "Tell me why you are here and what you want to learn and get from this presentation." End quote. This is not only expeditious and effective, it is also authentic and comes across as genuinely helpful, coming from someone who is there to be of service and to give value to them. Do not skip this step and get good at dialoguing with them before you start actually dictating to them. Okay, on to step number 3. The new epidemiology of 21st century patients. Here is where your actual proper presentation material begins. This is also the first step in your sales psychology, and a very important one. You want very quickly to acknowledge and talk about the epidemiology of 21st century patients and the effect of patients with chronic illness on modern healthcare delivery. This is such an essential point to know about and to really study so that you have reliable facts and figures and so that you can feel extremely comfortable and competent about discussing this. What you are really doing here is showing that your presentation is on point and relevant to them and their situation in clinic pretty much every single day. Very few specialties in modern medicine will not be affected by the shift in epidemiology toward chronic functional illness and serious chronic diseases, so you can reliably go to this material over and over again. The reason this fits so very well with any sales psychology formula is because you want to first create awareness that a problem exists. Physicians know that this problem exists, and many of them will be nodding their heads and also raising their hand to comment once you show that you understand their specific pain and frustration. I have never once spoken to any audience or individual physician in all of my career where the person or persons I was speaking to did not know about this issue and have real pain and frustration over it. Now, if you don't have good and accurate facts and up-to-date research about the epidemiology of chronic conditions and the specific and most common, most costly comorbidities in all of medicine among 21st century patients, then I will tell you later how you can get really reliable facts and research on this that you can quote with real confidence, because you will need it all throughout your presentation and for the remainder of your career. You really need to present this step the same way a lawyer would in a court of law. Now, again, most MDs will know this stuff, but here is the key. They need to know that you know it, and they will respect you and listen with greater interest once they hear this from you. Okay, on to step number 4. Step 4, the pathophysiology of stress according to biomedical lingo. Here is where you need some practice and study about how to describe and explain some simple concepts in biomedicine. Absolutely no holistic lingo here. It is essential that you get reasonably competent at speaking about simple biomedical mechanisms in a medically accurate way. The example you should use is to relate a simple explanation of the stress response and then expand on how acupuncture affects this mechanism in the next step. Now, I'm going to give you some of the exact phrases and words you can and should use, but remember that, just like before, they already know all of this. They just need to know that you know it and that, number 1, you have gone to the trouble to learn it and can explain it accurately, and number 2, that you are not a New Age knucklehead with a chip on his shoulder who is there to cram a lot of ancient Asian mumbo-jumbo down their throats. So don't even hint at Asian ideas, concepts, or lingos here yet. Now, if you don't know how to walk someone through the basics of the stress response in biomedical lingo, I'm going to model this approach for you. Here is a transcription of my basic delivery of this key step. Quote, "Okay, doctors, stop and consider the simple pathomechanisms of stress and the consequences this one mechanism has on almost all chronic disease and chronic functional conditions. We all know this, but let's just review together what happens when a patient experiences sympathetic upregulation, i.e. the stress response. What happens to heart rate? It goes up, right? What happens to blood pressure? It goes up because portions of the circulatory system constrict and contract and speed up blood flow to push blood to the major muscles of the legs, arms, and chest. What happens to blood flow to the abdomen and abdominal organs, and specifically to the digestive and reproductive systems? Right, smooth muscle tissue is affected and blood flow to the digestive and reproductive organs gets diverted away, shunted away from the internal organs as the body redirects that blood to nourish the big muscles of the legs and thighs. That, of course, is the flight part of the fight or flight response. The arms and chest, in men especially, get a big dose of nourishing blood, which is the fight part of fight or flight. And men and women both get a big hit of blood to the heart and brain, so the heart can work extra hard, and so your brain and senses are super alert and can help you get out of danger." Close quote. Okay, so without even once mentioning any Asian idea or concept, and definitely without any whiff of qi or liver depression, qi stagnation, or any other abstruse or mysterious word or concept, here we have completely demonstrated an ability to speak their lingo. Okay, no big deal. Maybe some of you already know all of this. But my experience is that most acupuncturists have no idea to accurately describe ANS dysregulation in biomedical lingo. So that is one half of this portion of your presentation. Now we get on to step number 5. Now we get to move on to step number 5. Explain how acupuncture downregulates the ANS. Here is where you get to flex your brains and really make it clear from an intellectual point of view how acupuncture affects, number 1, can be understood according to biomedical lingo and concepts, and number 2, that acupuncture is valuable in helping all kinds of chronic functional conditions, and especially the big 4 comorbidities of pain, stress, anxiety, and depression. So here's another short clip of how I typically language this step. Quote, "So doctors, when I insert acupuncture needles at certain points, we not only get local effects on blood flow and systemic endorphin release, but also the needles trigger a systemic response that, in some ways, is even more significant than the simple local effects. Why? Because it downregulates sympathetic nervous system upregulation, and it upregulates parasympathetic response, which we all know as the rest and digest mechanism. I'm going to demonstrate how this works because unless you have actually been treated by a high-quality acupuncturist, and unless you actually experience the sensation and effects of high-quality acupuncture for yourself, you simply cannot have any clear idea of how effective this simple therapy is, and you will forever be confused about what professional quality acupuncture actually feels like. To be clear once again, this systemic response and reaction, among other things, re-regulates the autonomic nervous system by downregulating sympathetic hyperactivity and upregulating parasympathetic response. Now, for most patients dealing with chronic functional conditions and serious chronic disease, some improvement in a patient's symptoms and even in the course of their actual disease process will occur if they simply rest and digest better. And this is the real value of acupuncture to mainstream medicine in 21st century patients. It is very simple, extremely safe, and demonstrably effective treatment that simply helps patients recover by resting and digesting better. I don't want to oversimplify this, and I'm going to give a quick review of some of the latest findings of acupuncture's effects on brain chemistry after I demonstrate on some of you. But in the simplest possible terms, number one, the body repairs itself by resting and digesting. This is how we recover from illness, physical insults, and the degenerative effects of aging and stress. Number two, acupuncture aids in the re-regulation of the ANS, and so, in addition to local effects on pain from poor circulation, it helps with multiple different chronic functional conditions and even serious chronic diseases simply because it allows patients to rest and digest better and thus promotes the self-healing response latent within the body. Got it? Questions? Okay, who wants to actually feel this effect from acupuncture? Close quote. I have done several things there that go beyond giving mere information. I have positioned myself as a high-quality practitioner who not only knows their lingo, but who can also be counted on to represent them well because there is no inherent contradiction between my explanation of what acupuncture does to get its effects and their medical school training about how the nervous system functions to help patients heal. Okay, on to step number 6. With all this buildup, you had better be able to deliver. Step number 6, demonstrate, and be a little nasty about it. Here is where you can do more good or more harm to your professional reputation than with all the rest of your presentation combined. Let's face it, there's a lot of bad acupuncturists and a lot of very poor quality acupuncture going on in North America, and you had better be one of the high quality professionals if you are going to win them over. If you know you are a great needler, then it is your duty to demonstrate what non-New Age acupuncture feels like so that physicians are clear about the difference. Here is where I really have fun, and I encourage you to shine as well. Obviously, if you are either not confident about your needle skills or even not sure about what I mean when I say the difference between hospital quality and New Age style acupuncture, then do yourself a big favor and get back to school on how to needle. And I do not mean to actually go back to your school. Most schools do a very poor job of clarifying and emphasizing this key ingredient in their curriculum, and yet it is without a doubt the one thing that cannot be faked or missing. If you fear you don't yet know how to be a killer needler who gets needle response each and every time you insert a needle and who knows the difference between bad technique and good quality, strong stimulation, then look for one of my boot camps because I travel the US and Canada and elsewhere, if you want to come to a cool little place in Central America for a few days, to teach hospital quality needle skills like you have probably never seen, felt, or been exposed to, and more people tell me that this is the most valuable thing I do for them than from any other skill I teach except communication skills. So don't overlook this key skill and get great at it. If you cannot make it to my own boot camp, then find a mentor if you can and practice until you produce good needle response at each point you needle with no nastiness or sharp sensation, and so that you can perform this way so easily and consistently that you actually find it hard to remember getting it wrong. I confess that I like to be extra, shall we say, firm. I hesitate to use the term brutal when I demonstrate on doctors. The reason is obvious. If you fail to get a needle response and to show total competence and confidence in your actions as a clinician, then all your efforts at correct language are really wasted. But if you really make it your task to deliver a killer strong treatment, then that volunteer will know for all time and beyond any debate that number one, it is definitely different than anything they have ever felt, and there is nothing New Age about it. And number two, even though placebo expectation is a factor in almost all clinical medicine, acupuncture is certainly not just a placebo expectation response and effect. And most importantly of all, number three, you and your skills are simply beyond questioning. Plus, let's face it, being the first to introduce a physician to real deal needle response is fun. Your stock goes through the roof when they witness and or experience your ability to trigger a physical response that they have likely never felt and, in fact, do not even know exists. You do not need to do many points on your volunteers. Keep it brief. Even 2 to 4 points are more than enough. But I do recommend you ask for several volunteers so that you will have multiple mouthpieces talking about you when you leave. It is important that you treat a few, maybe 3 or 4 people, if you have time, and you should make time, as this is, in many ways, the most convincing part of your pitch. Okay, if you have done a good job with step number 6, then step number 7 should be a breeze. Step number 7, position yourself against the New Age at every opportunity. So here is the second important concept that makes your presentation more than just an informational talk. This may be the most important marketing concept for you to grasp when you communicate with and present to physicians and mainstream medical administrators. It goes without saying that, from a marketing and sales point of view, any product or service with a unique position or angle that makes it rare or in some ways extra special and more valuable than the common run-of-the-mill status quo, then that product or service will be more sought after and thus can command a higher price or fee. When dealing with physicians, there are two tells that indicate you are a New Age joker. A tell is a term used in gambling, and it refers to a habit or quirk of character that tips your hand, as in a game of poker. The two biggest tells in presenting to a room full of physicians are, number one, lack of any evidence of logical methodology, and number two, cheese whiz, voodoo quality, New Age needle skills that produce no discernible reaction or change in the physiological state of the patient. It is not possible to do justice to holistic methodology, pattern discrimination, tongue and pulse and questioning, etc., in a short talk about acupuncture, and that should not be your goal here anyway. As we all hopefully know already, pattern discrimination is generally not essential to good quality acupuncture anyway, even though it is clearly essential to high quality herbal practice in the Chinese medical model. Nonetheless, if you can deliver a no bullshit, legitimate needle response, then it is okay merely to mention that you are only needling for demonstration purposes, but that there is a sophisticated criteria and methodology that goes into a treatment plan for acupuncture patients. It is not necessary to explain more, and you should politely decline any request to elaborate for both time constraint reasons and so that you do not dilute your main focus, which is to demystify the biomedical mechanisms of acupuncture's effects in a language that your physician colleagues understand and respect. In other words, it is important that they know that professional quality holism does have a logical methodology, but it is not necessarily for you to explain how this does or does not pertain to acupuncture diagnosis and treatment. If you try to tie all these ends together, you will inevitably make more confusion than clarity in a 1-hour time slot. So my advice is, don't even try to clarify at all. Mention it, but do not elaborate. If you did a good job with your demonstration and several of them have felt good needle response, then you have covered the major concern about what acupuncture feels like and whether or not it is all simply hocus pocus. To position yourself against the New Age means you are instantly more valuable and more trustworthy, not to say less likely to embarrass them if and when they send you patient referrals. So at every opportunity, I throw the New Age under the bus by ridiculing the whole energy medicine, intuitive diagnosis, and God help you if they even suspect you of this, and every form of lousy needle technique, including shallow, Japanese-style needling with no needle response. Understand, please, that it makes no difference to me how you actually practice in clinic, but for the purposes of your presentation, you must needle to get a response or you risk blowing the entire effort. And if you prefer to needle shallow and believe that your patients benefit from this, I have my own personal opinion about that, but it does not necessarily mean that you cannot be successful in gaining physician referrals. So my own opinion about the type of needling that you perform in clinic and in your private practice is of little concern here. But if you do ask for volunteers and wish to demonstrate effectively, you damn well better get some needle response, or else they will be laughing up their sleeves as they walk out and you will never hear from them again. Believe me when I tell you that I know what I'm talking about with this. If I had time, I would cover a funny anecdote about the physician that I treated at Cleveland Clinic. So, word to the wise, take the needle response thing very seriously and get good at it if you're still struggling. For whatever reason, there are so few acupuncturists who are competent and confident enough to impress physicians that just positioning yourself against the New Age is enough to increase your value and the likelihood of getting referrals from physicians in any talk that you do. Use this marketing concept and always position yourself as different. Define the New Age and clearly define what makes you a professional versus a neo-shamanic energy healer idiot. New Age jokers are the worst nightmare of physicians and mainstream administrators, and so it is not difficult to position yourself as different from them. But it is crucial, and I strongly urge you to use this tactic to your benefit. Okay, step number 8. Show deference to their status and expertise. In my opinion, it is good for you to strut a little when you treat your volunteers during the demo step of your presentation. You should ooze confidence and professional competence. But once you have done this, and once you have made it clear that you despise all the New Age non-professionals who give acupuncture a bad or at least a questionable name, then I have also found tremendous value in acknowledging the serious training and professionalism of your conventional medical colleagues. There's nothing wrong with showing genuine deference to your audience at some point in your talk. This can be done strategically, as I will demonstrate. Understand that, confidentially, MDs are a curious crowd. But one thing they all believe, rightly as it seems to me, is that the successful completion of medical school is a badge of honor they feel proud and yes, even sometimes superior for having earned. Use this to your advantage and do not bristle about it. I sometimes hear people in the acupuncture world speak with real resentment that doctors are all arrogant a-holes. Not true in my experience, and it's much better to simply acknowledge why they might feel that way instead of railing against it. Bottom line is this. Medical school is no joke, and I hate to break it to anyone who is in denial about this. It is much harder than getting a diploma from a Chinese medical college. So relax and use this to your advantage. Again, the exact steps in your presentation can sometimes change order, and this step may naturally occur or spontaneously be interjected in your presentation, especially during impromptu interaction and dialogue. So it is not necessary to do it in exactly this order, but it is an important element to a successful presentation, and so you should consider engineering it into some portion of your talk. In other words, don't just gloss over this step. I include this step with good reason, so don't overlook it. Here is how I would use this particular element of a successful presentation as a prelude to the next step of talking about brain chemistry and research. Quote, now, obviously, doctors, I am not an expert on the topic of brain chemistry, but it is an essential part of acupuncture's somewhat unique value in treating 21st century patients with certain comorbidities. So even though you all have far greater and deeper knowledge and understanding of my next talking point, I'm going to do my best to relate to you this important piece of the modern understanding of acupuncture's effects on brain chemistry and hope that you can follow along and even add your own interpretation as I go. End quote. What this really says to them is that you know that they are important and that you are really someone who is there to help and to add value by clarifying their understanding and their clinical outcomes with difficult to treat, frustrating patients. That you care enough to even mention and will attempt to convey this information really will set you apart. That you should care to show deference to their training means and their thinking that you are one of the good guys and someone who will reflect well on them when they send you a referral patient. Now also understand that pure ass-kissing is never a good idea because you can pay for it later if it does not get you labeled outright as an ass-kisser and thus dismissed. But done strategically, showing genuine and authentic deference to their expertise goes a long way toward ingratiating you as somebody they can call upon. Step number 9, brain chemistry. This is by far the heaviest topic, but please don't panic. Tell yourself again, this is easy and I can do this. Now, obviously, I cannot go into the gruesome detail about brain chemistry as it pertains to pain, stress, and other major comorbidities in this webinar. It is far too big and detailed and complex a topic, and we simply don't have time. I will tell you later how you can get excellent information about the latest research in a reliable manner and how you can even learn quickly to speak intelligently about this topic in front of any audience simply by modeling an approach that already works. Make no mistake, you must have this information at your fingertips, so please pay attention till the end, and I will tell you how you can get the best and most easily understandable material on this topic that I know of anywhere. Let me overview what you should know and be ready to include in your presentation, and then I will tell you at the end how you can get all that expertise that you will ever need on this subject, and I advise you to read it because there is enormous value to your career in understanding this material. If you choose to research this topic on your own, you will need to study the following. Number 1, pathophysiology and biochemical explanations of chronic pain. Specifically, why is chronic pain a different animal than acute pain, and what happens to various neural circuits when the body and brain have a steady and constant chronic pain signal present. Number 2, pathology of major comorbidities like anxiety and depression, so that you can understand which parts of the brain are affected and the neurotransmitters that are implicated in these two nearly ubiquitous modern maladies. Number 3, a basic understanding of major neural networks, what they are, how they function, what kinds of conditions in the modern patient population are related to imbalances within the neural networks. Number 4, acupuncture's effects on aiding patients with brain chemistry imbalance. And number 5, a few more items that I will not go into here. Now, I know that all of that can sound pretty overwhelming, and it is, but not if you have somebody walk you through it. As I said, I have not one but 2 sources you can get your hands on and refer to regarding these subtopics of brain chemistry. Look, I'm not an MD nor a scientist in any sense. I figured this out by asking questions. Lucky for all of you, you do not need to go dig all this stuff up on your own. My colleague has done a great job of making the details of this important step easy to grasp and discuss with others. But even if you do not get any other material on this topic, as I strongly suggest you do, I'm still going to tell you the final conclusion that makes acupuncture of such enormous interest and value to modern physicians. If you use this without reading about brain chemistry and acupuncture's effects on it, you will likely be challenged and may look foolish. But I will give it to you anyway, and you can do as you wish. The important how about it with regard to acupuncture's effects on brain chemistry comes down to this, quote, "So, doctors, what all this adds up to is that, according to some of the latest research from the NIH, regular acupuncture can help to reestablish top-down control of the neural networks and thus aids patients suffering from the most common, most costly comorbidities in all of modern medicine, making your ability to help these patients a simple matter of incorporating professional quality acupuncture in your practice when you are confronted with patients with a recalcitrant condition that is not responding to conventional care." Close quote. That phraseology is significant, so make sure you get it and stick around until the end so that you can learn how to get the two references I have co-created and will make available to you at a significant discount so that you can learn to speak intelligently, because you really cannot do a competent presentation without that material. Step number 10, the research. The bottom line about research is that you would better know it and you would be foolish not to use it. If you are going to put yourself up in front of mainstream physicians, you simply do not have the option to dodge this issue. They only respect statements that are backed by a significant body of research, and you had better be prepared to tell them what that research says and also what sources you have looked at. But here is something that still astonishes me, because so few people actually take advantage of this fact. If you know the latest research about acupuncture, it is overwhelmingly in your favor right now. The modern research is also very recent. Remember that you want material that is both modern in terms of its methodology and understanding of neural networks and neuroplasticity, etc., and also recent in that it is also from a major journal or organization. Again, my colleague Dr. Rafford has done this for us. The level of expertise you can get simply by accessing what he has done is far more firepower than you will ever need, and much more than any physician or group of MDs will be expecting. So unless you enjoy the challenge of researching difficult topics on your own, my suggestion is that you read and study what he has done, and I will tell you in a few more minutes how you can get all of his excellent work. Now, if you want to go it alone, then make sure you quote stuff from organizations like the NIH for North American doctors, and the Lancet, obviously, for Europeans and North Americans alike. You want to be cautious mentioning research from China, where political motivations cast a skeptical pall over much of what you are likely to find. When you talk to physicians, you literally could not say, quote, "according to the research," close quote, too many times. If you said that phrase 100 times and it was relevant and accurate, it would still have an impact. So make the research your friend, because it is very much in your favor, and it once again shows that you understand and respect their need for it and the point of view that says professional medicine must be research-based. Okay, on to step 11, functional medicine. So this is another of the 12 steps that can be done in another place and does not necessarily need to be considered part of a linear sequence. This is another of the essential topics that you must address in order to be legitimate, convincing, persuasive, and thorough, but does not need to be done in sequence in order to help you with your sales psychology and structure. So step number 11 should be addressed if you feel competent to do it, and if it does not detract from the underlying sales psychology of your presentation. But it does not need to be done after number 10 and before number 12. In fact, I usually do not bring up the word chi at all. I will usually wait for one of them to do it, and if nobody brings it up, I may skip it entirely, depending on time constraints. However, you absolutely must have a cogent answer if this issue comes up. There is one right way to talk about this that gets you a ton of respect, and there are a number of very loose-headed New Age ways that will cost you all of your credibility. So you better learn how to deal with this issue, because you are almost certainly going to have to discuss it at some point in your career, and you do not want to blow it when you do. When I explain about chi, I make sure to do a thorough job of, you guessed it, throwing the New Age explanation under the bus. Why? because as Westerners, the most likely explanation and definition they have ever heard with respect to qi is that it is bioenergy, bioelectricity, prana, your aura, or some other version of New Age nonsense, all of which are equally ambiguous and useless in professional medicine. When you clarify this point, you again make yourself a source of immense value to them. Here again, a simple, concise definition with a simple example or two is sufficient. Here is how I explain this when I present to physicians. Quote, "Doctors, no end of confusion has come from the word and concept of qi. So let me give you a little insight into what the Chinese are actually referring to at a conceptual level so you can really grasp this in a non-New Age way, because once somebody explains this to you in a proper manner, it really does demystify a lot of the holistic system from China at the professional level. First of all, in the last 2,400 years of literate history of Chinese medicine, no one ever wrote about, so far as I've been able to discover, the word or concept of energy. The whole five-element thing, if you're familiar or somehow have heard of this popular mnemonic model, is a Western creation by a guy named Worsley, who essentially grafted homeopathic theory on top of Chinese medical theory. Qi as energy is a remnant of vitalism, and that is about as New Age as you can get. At the professional level, what the Chinese actually mean when they say qi is more or less best translated as function. Qi is a reference to a functional aspect of health or illness, as in dysfunction. So ultimately, professional quality holism is functional medicine. It is the concept of qi that makes it so. Let me illustrate the basic logic here. The function of the heart is to pump the blood out to the body. If a patient is said to be diagnosed and labeled as suffering from heart qi vacuity, then you would expect to see some signs and symptoms such as general lassitude, spontaneous sweating, shortness of breath upon minor exertion, and even cyanosis and a bluish facial tinge. All of these functional signs and symptoms indicate a lack of function, or in the Chinese conceptual nomenclature, heart qi vacuity or insufficiency, which is a technical label that denotes the presence of the specific signs and symptoms that I mentioned. No functional signs or symptoms, no pattern diagnosis. Is this clear? Because the Chinese logic is anything but New Age and arbitrary. It is deeply and elegantly logical, based on objectively verifiable evidence. This is the big news for most physicians who have simply never been exposed to anything but New Age vitalism, and who thus incorrectly associate professional quality Chinese medicine with all the other New Age holistic nonsense out there. It is definitely not that. Close quote. And so, in the transcript of this webinar, you will see text that is also in blue, and I am not including that here. I'm jumping out of character here. You can read more about my explanation of qi and functional medicine and the way that I talk about this to doctors, but I'm not going to cover it all here because I want the webinar to keep moving, and you can decide for yourself what part of that you would like to take. That's my gift to you. Okay? In any case, moving on. I have done many talks where I never once said the word qi. If they don't bring it up, I don't either. But if it does get brought up, you would better not start stuttering and blinking and mumbling and then spout a load of New Age crap about energy medicine and five elements, etc., because you will lose them. To not have an answer for this when it comes up is a disaster. To have the wrong answer is just as damaging. So learn how to handle it well before you get asked. Learn to define and give examples of qi as a reference to function. Go read up on functional medicine, which is a hot topic still for many young conventional medical professionals, and you will see the many important parallels between what is now called functional medicine in the West and what we know and understand as professional quality holistic Chinese medicine, with this concept of qi and the logic of pattern discrimination. Okay, one last really important point to clarify. Holism as a professional medical system. Step number 12. Defining professional quality holism. Define professional quality holism and make it clear that it is different in a way that matters, because it can help treat the difficult patients that are not responding well to conventional medical approaches. I have been shocked by just how many people have no real concept of what is meant by holism. I suggest that you prepare yourself to define this term and to show the significance of its relevance in treating and managing patients with chronic conditions. Just like the term and concept of qi, you cannot afford to get blindsided on this important topic. You need to know what holism is and why it is different, and also how the majority of people have a completely wrong-headed New Age understanding of it, so that you clearly differentiate what it is that you do from what the mob of New Age practitioners doesn't understand. The obvious reason is that failure to speak intelligently about this can completely destroy your credibility as a non-New Age ally of modern scientific conventional medicine, and this crushes all your other efforts and good work in the rest of your presentation. But there is a less obvious reason, which is that this is an important part of your sales formula and psychology. And if what you do and sell really is legitimate, and it is different in a significant and essential and valuable way, and if it is more rare and more unique, then you are going to be in great shape when it comes to actually getting compensated. After all, isn't it better to sell something that is rare, valuable, and difficult to get than something that is commonplace and not particularly valuable? The answer is obvious. When you finish your presentation, you are going to ask them for their referrals, and that means you want to stand out from the crowd, i.e., as different from what else is out there. So when you give a logical, rational definition of holism, and I will again give you mine, including the important phraseology of how to say it, you not only add to the legitimacy of what you do and represent, you also, here's this word again, position yourself as different from others in the marketplace of practitioners. So here we go. Quote, "Who here has a good definition of holism?" Close quote. I highlight this step because it harks back to our opening move of finding out who is in the room and what kind of thinking they might already have on this subject. It is a wonderful tactic wherein you teach by asking questions. You will likely hear all kinds of strange and poorly thought out answers, and this allows you to point out the weakness of each one before giving your own correct reply. Do not be shocked when you hear outlandish answers. The most outlandish reply I ever received on this was actually by the doctors at Cleveland Clinic. No kidding. Open quote. Okay, so as we can see, there is a lot of ambiguity over this simple question. Let me give you the correct answer at the professional level and then explain to you just why this professional model matters right now. First, let me just ask all of you, can thinking negative and self-defeating thoughts make you sick? Close quote. When I ask this, I always get a 100% affirmative response, so feel free to use it. Open quote. Okay, so we all agree that the mind or psyche influences physical health and illness, yes? What about the other way around? If you are ill or seriously injured and in poor health, will such a physical state affect your psyche? Close quote. Again, in my experience, agreement is universal, so use this question as well. Open quote. Good. So we agree? Okay, that's professional quality holism. Professional quality holism is not any new age, oh, let's just think positive kind of routine. But it does take for granted that your mind influences your physical reality and thus the reality of health and illness. But there is also something else to the professional understanding of holism that almost everyone in the West overlooks. I will explain it in a moment. Close quote. Here again, I love to goof on all the New Age jokers because, again, it positions you as different from that useless and dangerous point of view. Open quote. The New Ager believes that, oh, if I just think positive, happy thoughts of success and abundance, all will be well in the universe. It is a return to the Asian idea of primacy of consciousness point of view, and quite frankly, there is no end of proof that such a point of view has been overshadowed by Western objectivism. So, whereas modern medicine has made incredible advances by thinking of and treating the body as a machine, the professional quality holistic model has certain other advantages that really do come in handy when diagnosing and treating conditions of long-standing and stubborn chronic functional complaints with multiple etiologies. The important point here is that, just like modern conventional medicine has a sweet spot where it is clearly superior to anything else, so too the professional holistic system has a real sweet spot where it is incredibly useful in helping patients who are not responding to conventional medicine. If you look at these patients, who they are and what they are suffering from, you will see many of the worst and most frustrating and difficult to treat kinds of conditions and comorbidities in all of medicine. And to put an even finer point on this comparative view, the strength of modern medicine is the exact limitation of holistic Chinese medicine and vice versa. The Chinese know this, and it's why they've done so much to integrate Western medicine with their own cultural model of medicine, health and illness, treatment and prevention. Close quote. I'm going to skip over a little bit of the rest of my explanation and language here as it's going to get a little too long for this webinar. You can read it again. You can read this in the transcript that is attached. Open quote. The methodology of professional quality holistic medicine is called pattern discrimination, and to the extent that it is practiced correctly, it is based on objective signs and subjectively verifiable but universal symptoms. Everybody knows what it feels like to be tired or sad or anxious. These may be subjective sensations, but they are not personally subjective. Pattern discrimination is based on the recognition of what is in the West and would be referred to as syndromes, i.e. the grouping of signs and symptoms that tend to appear together. The patient's treatment is based primarily on their presenting patterns of signs and symptoms and not on the name of their disease. Just to give you an example of this statement and the process, let's take a clinical complaint of headache. In a professional quality holistic pattern discrimination, there are 13 patterns of signs and symptoms that relate to a clinical complaint of totong or headache. Each pattern is caused by a different pathomechanism. Therefore, since not every headache is caused by one single mechanism, not every headache should be treated the same way. Likewise, not everyone who has type 2 diabetes has the same signs and symptoms of type 2 diabetes. There are 12 patterns of signs and symptoms related to type 2 diabetes in professional quality holistic medical practice, and professional quality holistic medicine differentiates the diagnosis and treatment of any given patient with type 2 diabetes according to these 12 patterns. The corollary to this is that in professional quality holistic medicine, treatment is primarily based on the patient's particular patterns and not merely on the named Western disease of type 2 diabetes. This has useful and profound implications in long-term treatment of chronic conditions arising from complex etiologies and non-specific chronic functional illness. So this is the correct explanation of why professional holism is so valuable right now. Pattern discrimination recognizes different presentations of the same named Western disease. And since treatment is based on the patient's presenting patterns of signs and symptoms and not merely on their named Western disease condition, you end up getting a level of specificity that greatly aids conventional medical treatment because it is tailored to each specific patient's specific and unique presentation of their condition. Now, obviously, doctors, we are on a time schedule here, and I cannot do full justice to this topic in a short lecture, but I have more to say on it and would be glad to discuss it further or answer any questions you might have at another time. But suffice to say for this presentation to simply understand that pattern discrimination is really based on the diagnosis and treatment of syndromes of signs and symptoms that tend to clump and group together, whereas modern conventional medicine has delivered astonishing advances in surgery and biochemical interventions that have come from treating the body as a machine, so too the holistic system has a built-in bias. In professional quality holism, the mind and body are fundamentally inseparable. The upshot of this limitation is that holism offers a model of functional medicine that has some pretty useful advantages when it comes to treating and managing chronic, lifestyle-driven conditions, the exact kind of conditions that tend not to respond very well to modern conventional treatment. Close quote. Okay, so I went overboard as usual and gave away the store here. You will not likely need all of this verbiage, but you will have it if you do need it, or if you just want to flex your brains in front of them. Again, these are the 12 key switches that have to be thrown in the minds of any physician or mainstream medical professional that you talk to. Armed with this kind of ability, you simply cannot fail right now. Okay, well, there it is. Go for it. If you can take those 12 steps, implement them, and get your career to the next level, the highest level that is mainstream practice, then great for you. That material took me years of trial and failure to understand and to craft and put together for you, but it is my gift to all of you and to our profession, and it is now yours. As I have said repeatedly, there is nothing more powerful right now for creating more success, more revenue, and more prestige, and more freedom and influence in your life and career than this one skill of learning how to approach and educate MD physicians and mainstream medical professionals in a language that they understand and respect. If you struggle to get patients, then there is one best source for a constant and steady stream of high-quality patients. That best source is MD physician referrals. If you want to impress physicians and gain their trust and earn their referrals, you must address these points, and if you do an even halfway decent job of it, your career will jump many levels and in a much shorter time than if you simply do what everyone else is doing by going to health fairs or trying to host open house or lunch and learns on AOM day. You really can create streams of MD referrals in less time than you ever thought possible if you get this right, and there is no better way to create success quickly than to simply model someone else who is already successful. I know because I have lived it and because I've helped others do it. The best way to reach physicians is to actually go out and give a talk to them. This is actually so easy to do that it's almost a joke. I literally picked up the phone and called Cleveland Clinic, the most famous hospital in North America, and they paid me to come give a talk after filling out several very short forms and submitting an outline of what I wished to present. It really was that simple. Based on that, don't you think you could contact your local hospital and get scheduled for a grand rounds? They have to offer these talks on an ongoing basis, and so hospitals and physician group settings are constantly looking for new speakers. When I've done this at other locations, I'm able to get booked in a matter of days or weeks, and once you know that you can confidently create a successful and valuable presentation that meets MD physicians and mainstream medical professionals and administrators where they are, then you really do have the keys to the kingdom as far as being an acupuncturist goes, because there is no higher achievement and no better source of steady income and practice success. So, what if you could do this? Can you see that you are just one single successful presentation to any audience of physicians away from changing your life and career forever? You've just seen and heard with your own eyes and ears that you can earn massive respect and a flood of referrals in a way that is neither salesy nor pushy, but rather simply by teaching physicians what they need to know in a way and in a language they understand and respect. Mastery of this skill is the number one key to high-level career achievement, inclusion in big-time medical practice at the mainstream level, and the key to your financial freedom and the end of your scarcity problems for all time. So, where should you go from here? Well, if you feel confident enough to take this knowledge and run with it, then please do so. Good luck, and I hope you find massive success as I have. This material is now yours, but I would also be doing you a disservice if I did not share with you these words of caution. As with most things in life, success will come from the details. Just like a great surgeon doesn't study a textbook, watch a few surgeries, and start cutting, so too you must sweat the details and get them right. There is a process here, and even though I have given you my best stuff in a brief outline and overview, you must understand and respect the process. Going through Chinese medical college and training was also a process. You can't just start in the middle or end of the process simply because you want it to go faster. Just because you might know how the game of soccer is played doesn't mean you can lace up your boots and go walk onto the field and become a world champion either, and it is no different here. What I have shared with you today are the rules of successfully presenting to physicians in a way that persuades them of your competence, expertise, and authority status. It took me a good 7 years to really nail down exactly what works and why, and then to phrase all of this in the right biomedical lingo. I had not less than 4 mentors and a dozen connections, and I taught this material over and over until it really flowed together to give me the results that I wanted. Was it worth it? Obviously it was to me. Mastering this one skill is what has allowed me to go from broke to being a highly paid professional who gets to travel the world, and has allowed me to create not just my own successful business, but the life of freedom and plenty that I always wanted, and that we all want. But I practiced this skill daily for several years, adding and subtracting, moving and changing things until I got it right, and needless to say it was a very long and very difficult process. Just like if you want to become a doctor, you have to successfully complete medical school. If you want to be a successful and in-demand acupuncturist in 21st century medicine, you have to learn to reach out and communicate effectively with your mainstream medical colleagues. Period. You cannot just shortcut or ignore this process, and you certainly better not discount or dismiss the importance of learning this skill if you really want a busy, successful, and high-paying practice that simultaneously allows you to impact the medical system at the highest level. But let's face it, 7 years is a long time, and I doubt many of you are going to go on the journey that I did to discover all that you need to on your own. Even though I have given you the very best basics and overview I can in a short webinar, I can only imagine what your confidence level is on all of this. Maybe it's 20% or 30% or 50%. But what would your confidence level be if I walked you through the entire process step by step and line by line? Would that increase your confidence and competence about this process to say 80 or even 90%? And what if we could shorten the time it would take you to get this level of confidence from 7 years to just 4 to 8 weeks? And what if I could actually guarantee that you would end up with all that you would ever need for a successful presentation to physicians that actually results in referrals and more income from your mainstream medical colleagues? Just remember that you get one shot with any individual physician or group of doctors. Once you get in front of physicians, if you blow it, you really cannot expect them to trust you or give you access to them ever again. and you certainly cannot expect them to send you referrals at any point in the future. So please take seriously the utter importance of getting all this correct from the beginning, the very first time out. So if you really want to get this done fast, here's how we're going to do it. We are going to create a guaranteed winning and successful presentation to physicians from start to finish together. I'm going to walk a limited number of students through a master's class on how to successfully communicate with and present to physicians. The program is called MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass. When you are done, you will have a real-life, effective presentation to physicians that presents you as the authority on the topic of acupuncture in a way and in a language that makes total sense to them and that promotes you and your service as the obvious choice for their referral traffic that you can use over and over again in front of any audience of mainstream medical professionals in any setting. So if you're tired of struggling to get enough patients to your clinic or of begging prospective patients to give you a try when you know full well how much your skills could help them if they would just agree and be compliant, and if you have skills that are going to waste and you would love to have a high-volume, high-income practice and to have one without putting in the effort into learning 1,000 different marketing tactics, if you're swimming in student debt and not making any real money in your practice, if you are even bitter that your schooling did nothing to address this issue of getting respect and referrals from mainstream medical professionals, and if you're tired of living month to month, paycheck to paycheck, and you finally want to take real control of your financial destiny, and if you finally want to acquire the ability to create a successful, busy, real revenue-generating practice absolutely anywhere in the Western world without ever having to struggle or beg one single person again, then this program is specifically for you. So here's how it's going to work. The MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass is not really just a course, it's an implementation program. By the time we are done together, you will have an in-the-box, done-for-you presentation that you can actually implement and that promotes your service automatically simply by following a step-by-step, scripted process and done-for-you plan and video template. The best part of all of this is that my done-for-you, paint-by-the-numbers presentation in a box for successful physician referrals is not a ton of work. Now, don't misunderstand me. You must do some work on your own. But this is not a 6-month, 25-module PhD thesis-style training. It is almost completely done for you. And all you really need to do is to transfer it and adapt it to your audience and then practice it in the mirror or on camera to actually get confident. I like to think of it like an iPhone version versus a desktop home computer. Think of a gigantic old desktop computer, huge and cumbersome, and certainly not convenient to lug around. In other words, you are not paying for convenience when it comes to a big clunky desktop. Now think of the functionality of an iPhone or other smartphone mobile device. It is an insane piece of technology that is utterly convenient because it comes in a tight package. This done-for-you presentation is a new iPhone. Get it? You are not going to pay for an enormous and difficult training program of all the different modules I could possibly teach you. The actual material is very brief, and thus you have very little to do. You get to essentially copy the final product of all of my work. Done this way, the implementation process is quick. I expect that anybody who really sat down to get it done could probably create a presentation within a few days. Do you understand? I could walk you through hundreds of hours of the process of my own learning, and if you want to go do such a thing on your own, be my guest. But if you want fast implementation and quick results so you can really get out in front of audiences and start promoting your expertise, then this is the best, and so far as I know, only program of its kind in the acupuncture and Chinese medical world. Look, no offense to other CEU providers who teach material on building a practice and getting physician referrals, but in my opinion their work doesn't even begin to address the questions that physicians have about what we do. So how effective can they be really? Once again, I have to set modesty aside and simply declare that I don't think anybody else in the entire Chinese medical world has anywhere near the experience and insight I have on this topic. Nobody has spent the years of travel and shirt sleeves rolled up in the trenches kind of hard work that I have committed to over as many years as I have put into this to find out exactly how to talk to physicians in a way that they understand and respect. When people ask me what makes my approach different and better, I tell them honestly, everything. Everything is different and better. That is why you have never seen any part of this before. It simply doesn't exist anywhere else. There is nothing typical about the way I approached this topic. My training was different from the beginning. My thinking was not tainted by any of the institutional nonsense that so clearly is not working for people in our profession. My own ability to follow up and continue to the completion of this achievement cost me years of effort and many thousands of dollars. I was simply lucky enough and determined enough to have and to take this opportunity, all in the pursuit of discovering the answer to the biggest question in the acupuncture world, which is, how do you become financially successful at the highest level of medicine? Truth to tell, I could not have completed this project without the help of some fairly high-level guidance from several physician mentors. Where else is anyone even in dialogue with physicians and willing to disclose what they are learning? No one I have ever met in the Chinese medical world is even close to understanding how to explain acupuncture according to biomedicine, and as proof of this, go check out the other physician referral training programs, and you will see that they are all stuck at the level of trying to shove ancient New Age nonsense down physicians' throat, which I can tell you for a fact will never ever work. Look, I'm not really in a position where I have to criticize anyone else, and so I certainly won't name any names, but go and look at all the other so-called practice-building programs and gurus and decide for yourself. This one says all you have to do is think positive and then go hold a lunch and learn or health fair where you can give away free treatments. Great idea, because spending money you don't have on events that no one comes to and then giving away your service always helps to put food on the table and pay your student loans. That one tells us that you do not need to explain anything biomedical about acupuncture to anyone else because it is totally mysterious and we just don't really know how it works. Why? This guy always leaves me scratching my head. Another fella says it is essential to create a presence on social media. Yeah, right, because patients and physicians who need you are actually going to go find you and friend you on Facebook, and because social media likes will pay your bills, right? One fella has a PowerPoint presentation to physicians that I wouldn't show to anybody, especially not a physician. I could go on, but it frustrates me, and none of these approaches will do you any good. Only a few have even identified physicians as the source of high-quality patient referral traffic. Not a source, but the source. And none of them even comes close to conquering the biggest source of reliable and high-quality patient referrals. Not one. No one else, to my knowledge, even has one piece of information that actually matters to physicians, and unless they, too, get busy learning what I have to teach you here, it is not likely that they ever will. In reality, it is not actually a fair comparison to set what I have done alongside these other folks and their work. They are in the same category, but in name only, and only to those of you who don't or won't understand what the essential differences actually are. It is also why the cost of what I have to offer reflects a totally different value proposition than someone who flippantly sells a self-titled six-figure practice development program. Again, I invite you to go look for yourself and decide. If all these other approaches were working so well and there was actually no real substance required for how you have to go about approaching and convincing physicians to get on board with your service, then there would be no scarcity problems left in the acupuncture world, and our profession would already be accepted in the halls of mainstream medicine. The fact that it is not widely accepted, but that a rogue individual like me can go into the biggest and most prestigious institutions in mainstream medicine and deliver a convincing presentation that gets places like Cleveland Clinic to take action should be encouraging to you, because there is really nothing in my own institutional credential alphabet soup that qualifies me to have access to these people, and because basically, if you have the guts to go try to reach out to them right now, you can succeed in a way that goes beyond your craziest imaginings. And I ought to know, because I have lived it from worse than broke all the way to free. You can do all the positive thinking you want. Here is what we will actually do. We will create your presentation as you look over my shoulder. All of the important elements, from brain chemistry to research to sales psychology to phraseology, will be included as I coach you on the best format and delivery for your own presentation to physicians, and you end up with a totally new dimension to your life and practice, one in which the world of mainstream medicine not only understands and respects you and your service, but can call upon you for help in treating their exact most difficult patients, the very same patients acupuncture is designed to treat best. You get the actual facts and research figures that you must be able to quote and refer to when you are in front of big-time medical professionals. This information comes from a physician colleague of mine who analyzed 2,000 research studies and meta-analyses. Are you really going to go do that kind of work? Be honest. If you did, could you really understand it all? I couldn't. That's why I approached an MD mentor in the first place. Would you know how to explain these findings, even if you saw them in front of you? I couldn't. That's why I approached several MD colleagues to mentor and coach me. Just think how valuable this material alone is to your career, because once you have it for good. You can use it absolutely everywhere you go with every professional contact you make for the rest of your career. Do you really know the actual research and facts about the worst and most prevalent conditions in all of medicine? I didn't. Do you know the costs? And could you actually quote the state of the modern epidemiology and the major comorbidities? I couldn't. Do you understand the major implications of neuroplasticity and why this is essential to your presentation to physicians? I didn't. Do you know how to put all of this together and how to present it? Do you know the language and phrases to use? Do you understand sales psychology well enough to implement this into your presentation? What is all of the above worth to you in terms of time and money, and the sheer aggravation factor to simply have someone show you exactly how to orchestrate your presentation for maximum effect in terms of getting them to take action that you want them to take, which is to send you their tough patients? I know what it took me, and I sure as hell wouldn't want anyone else to pay what I had to pay. But then why would you? All of that work has already been done for you. So if you get what I am sharing with you, then what would it take for you to go find all of this out on your own? What is it worth to you in your career that you could get all of this in one short, done-for-you presentation that you can ethically steal? Please just be sure to give credit to Dr. Rafford about his research, or else we will sue you. And we're not kidding about that, by the way. Just imagine that the scarcity thing is over. How does that actually feel? I can tell you how it feels, and for people who don't know from experience, you really should do anything and everything in your power to get to this place, because it is absolutely so completely worth it. Now, even though this is a totally new training and previously unreleased piece of material for succeeding in the mainstream of modern medicine, among the exact patients who so desperately need something different and more effective than the approach conventional medicine has to offer, I still want to just share a few quick sound bites of actual students, colleagues, and other practitioners who have gotten value from other similar work I have produced in the past. Maria in Chicago says, "The most important thing about the training is the level of professionalism it gives you. I also think the communication piece is the gem." Genevieve Boyer from Edmonton, Canada says, "Thank you so much for your ebook, Bridging the Chasm. The parts about the 7 most commonly asked questions by doctors especially." Kim Close, my friend and colleague in Chicago, says, "How many professional acupuncturists are currently in the mainstream?" Next to none. Acupuncturists need to work on their communication. As I have dropped more and more of my Chinese terminology and just speak in regular talk to my patients and physicians, they really seem to understand much better what is going on. My friend Michael in Chicago also says, "I consider the education Christian Nix offers to be a series of master classes. Christian also has put together a world-class seminar on the ways to communicate and explore your work in a hospital setting. The next step for Chinese medicine in the West is its inclusion in Western hospital settings." Amy in Ontario, Canada says, "Coaching with Christian Nix has been indispensable to launching my practice into the mainstream. If you are looking to break into the mainstream, the best time and money you will spend is with Christian, honestly." Dr. Choyan Xie, a doctor of Oriental medicine and professor of Chinese medicine in Florida, says, "There are many hospitals in China that have TCM departments, but only some in Taiwan. I really appreciate your practical guide. You are a genius." My friend Cliff, who I met several years ago and have collaborated with in the past, says, "Whether or not you are seeking a career within a mainstream setting or simply looking to grow and elevate your own practice, Christian Nix is the absolute best resource for expediting your learning curve and full potential as an acupuncturist. Christian is without a doubt the pioneer when it comes to educating the mainstream medical community and elevating acupuncture and East Asian medicine to its true potential that is in great need to serve the ever-growing patient population here in the U.S. Ingrid from New Mexico says, "I am still working on the guide, Bridging the Chasm. The content is great. If anyone thinks it's too forward, they are probably not someone equipped to make it in the mainstream, working with Western medical professionals. What you are sharing has been precisely my experience when talking to medical students, residents, and MDs. A lot of what you mentioned is exactly what we are up against." Stephanie, the sales trainer for Steiner Leisure Limited in Los Angeles, says, "Bridging the Chasm is an essential read for any acupuncturist that wants to be successful in the 21st century. It bridges the gap between Western and Eastern medicine and promises a brighter future for both modalities. Christian Nix is a brilliant acupuncturist, and we are fortunate to have someone like him opening doors for our profession." Megan in Virginia says, "I've been a big fan of your work since I first read an article on Acupuncture Today from you a year or so ago. I've read all 3 of your books and have listened to your Fast Track to Mainstream Practice lectures multiple times. You are speaking the truth and the future of medicine that I hear from no one else. Someone who can and has bridged the language gap to reach both the Western medical profession and the mainstream is the person I want to learn from. I have a ton of respect for you, and I'm looking forward to learning everything I can from you. Sunny in Chicago says, I bought the book Bridging the Chasm. What an excellent resource. I consider you one of my mentors, and with your help, I've communicated with patients and Navy medical personnel in my unit in ways that bring so much more legitimacy to our practice. Anne-Marie in Los Altos says, the FAST Implementation Bootcamp was key in helping me knock a recent presentation out of the park. It helped me to hone the topic, convey simple yet powerful takeaways, and build rapport with the audience. I was confident, and it showed. Educating the public is an essential skill for our profession to grow. This program gives you a recipe for learning those skills. It is a must for practitioners who want to grow their practice and thrive in the evolving medical world. I can't wait to give more presentations. A participant in the Pro-D webinar that I gave said this, great value and really good information on talking to doctors and understanding their relationship to what we do. I work in a hospital a few hours a week and frequently talk to the doctors of my private practice clients, and I can already see how this will be useful. I like the many references that were offered to learn more. Again, my friend Kim in Chicago says, my talk went great. I took Christian's advice and really got the audience engaged in the dialogue. It made everyone really participate. We had a long Q&A and 2 people happily volunteered to get the demo. I think it was very effective. I'm getting much more comfortable with the talks, and it's less about the script and more about talking to the people and reaching them at their level, talking to them about what they want to talk about. My friend David in Florida says, I'm a brain cancer survivor, and my goal is to work with cancer patients in a hospital setting. This is why I find your work so inspiring. There is a hospital where I live that wants to be a top-tier institution, but because they don't offer acupuncture services like Duke, Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson, or Johns Hopkins, they are challenged in this pursuit. I feel that this is an untapped opportunity to bring acupuncture into their conventional fold. I look to you as a pioneer, and that your experience will give me the insight to accomplish this task. My friend Tracy in Alameda says, Christian Nix did a masterful job of showing presentation skills, do's and don'ts for the mainstream. By far, this is the best CEU course I have ever attended, and having this education ensures we will have a cohesive and professional face in front of mainstream professionals. So you're still sitting here watching and listening to this webinar and learning some of my very best stuff on how to communicate effectively with MDs and mainstream medical professionals and administrators. You've seen my material from close up and that I've taken from actual presentations and publications that I have given and produced, and you have heard my own story and also the testimonials of others about how my 12-step approach works like crazy. Right now, I'm sure it's abundantly clear that joining the MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass will be one of the greatest career decisions you will ever make. So if you're ready to break through to the level of big-time mainstream medical practice and inclusion and to succeed beyond your current level of what you even think is possible, here's how to get started. By the time you've completed your MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass, you will have a fully functioning presentation that answers all of the questions physicians will ever likely ask you and that positions you as the absolute authority and obvious choice for their referral traffic, thus allowing you access to mainstream patients who would never otherwise frequent your clinic and who will bring you a totally new level of income and career influence. So, what about the price? The retail price of my MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass over at christiannix.com is $2,997. Now, if that sounds steep, keep this in mind. In order to put all of this together, you would need to travel and meet with not less than 10 to 20 experts in mainstream medicine, interview them and wrestle with the various pieces that each one has shared with you. Then you would need to compile and analyze several thousand research studies and then interpret, correctly, what all that research means by finding several MDs willing to explain it all, and then come up with the correct linguistic equivalencies that accurately and authentically convey concepts within the holistic Chinese medical system and methodology in biomedical terms. Then finally, you would have to go test your approach and your language in front of a few dozen different audiences and get feedback from them so that you could tinker and tweak your presentation language until you had it just right. Oh, and I forgot to mention that you should also not skip over the essential study of sales and marketing, and especially copywriting, so that you can structure your presentation to physicians with the all-important sales psychology required to actually motivate a bunch of skeptical scientists to actually take action and to do what you want them to do. So calculate another few years of effort, because marketing and copywriting is every bit as difficult and complex to learn and master as is medicine, and plan on spending, say, another $30,000 to $40,000 just for studying and learning all of this as well, because that is conservatively what I have invested, to say nothing of my time and the intensity with which I had to focus until things started to come together. As you can now see and understand, there is a reason why you have never encountered anything like this material or this level of sophistication in approaching physicians in a way they understand. It's because no one else has ever taken it upon himself to do all of the work. And that is why you are fortunate to have found this indispensable new training and implementation program. The MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass gives you an exact step-by-step, look-over-my-shoulder video template to follow with all of the behind-the-scenes work done for you. My colleague Dr. Rafford and I have done everything for you except actually go in and speak in front of your chosen audience, which obviously you must do for yourself if you want the benefit of being considered an authority. You get all of Dr. Rafford's essential stuff on brain chemistry, the latest high-level research, and all of the essential biomedical concepts and science that no one else in the acupuncture world is discussing or even aware of. This is totally new material from the research that was, in some cases, only a few months old when he analyzed it. And make no mistake, this is the essential material that you must have if you are going to stand any chance of winning over skeptical physicians. It is simply not optional, and you simply cannot give any legitimate presentation without it. Plus, on top of all of that, you get my years of expertise and polish in actually languaging all of this in a way that excites and engages them instead of merely boring or offending them. While it takes an MD to provide all of the content on brain chemistry and research, it really does take an acupuncturist to teach you how to language this in a way that is both medically accurate and authentic, but that also positions you as a total authority in your area of specialty expertise. This is where my own experience can save you years of failure and embarrassment. We have quite literally done all the hard work for you that no one else in the acupuncture and Chinese medical world wanted to do. And this video template is already tested and proven with real-life physicians in real-world settings. Now ask yourself honestly how you could possibly do all of the above on your own in your spare time. Now let me ask you, why would you even think of doing all of that on your own when you can just buy it? All done for you and wrapped up and ready for you to open, plug and play, and then go present. If you think about it, this is the most obvious of no-brainers that you could ever discover for your career advancement. So when I price this at $29.97 retail, you better believe that this is a sweet deal and quite a bargain. Now, you may be thinking, why should I have to pay all that money? Why can't I just go do it on my own with what I learned here? Besides, I have a degree. Doesn't that mean that MDs will be impressed with me as I am? To this last query, I will not even deign to explain why this self-defeating attitude is the death of every career infected by it. Understand this. MDs owe you nothing, not even 1 minute of their time, let alone the trust that would lead them to refer patients to you. To the first question, please sit for a moment and calculate all that you have spent on your education and in getting your degree. Are you satisfied that your institutional education actually prepared you to make a living? Probably not, or you wouldn't be watching a webinar like this. Success costs money, and if you want money, you need to play by the rules of money, which is that it is a measure of value. What I have for you is 10 times more valuable than anything else you could get or do to increase your value to the people who need you most, but who simply don't understand or trust you. If you want to become more valuable so that others actually pay you, then you need to commit to offering value first. Successful people invest in themselves and in their knowledge, skill, and ability. They invest in themselves first to increase their value to others. This is the path of self-improvement, and it is an infallible maxim of the firmament that if you increase your own worth, that others will treat you with greater consideration and will offer value to you for what you have to offer to them. You cannot fail to succeed if you will just help others to get what they want first. But you can succeed at failing by doing perfectly all the other things that are not working and that all the other failures are doing. Plus, and this is the key ingredient to why you need to take action immediately, the very fact that almost no one is reaching out to physicians right now is partly what makes any attempt to do so more likely to succeed. The very fact that you were the one willing to reach out to them already gives you a huge leg up versus anyone else they have ever met. To the second question above, I say, please do. Go for it and good luck to you. I would love to hear about your success. But understand this, if you approach MDs without the latest research facts and without a firm grasp of how to explain the basic physiological mechanisms by which acupuncture gets its therapeutic benefits, or if you don't really understand what it is that MDs in modern medicine are struggling with, I mean the actual epidemiological statistics and the actual conditions as well as the pathophysiology of those conditions in biomedical terms, and if you cannot share something with them that they don't already know and couldn't have figured out on their own without some serious inquiry, and if you don't even know how to explain things according to their own model of medicine, which, in spite of the bad attitude I often hear from the lips of many acupuncturists and TCM people, is still a damn good medical system and in many ways the jewel of human achievement over the last 100+ years, then what good is it to them to give you even 1 minute of their time? Why should they? In the above scenario, there is no real value to them in allowing you to take up their valuable time. Would you give someone so ignorant and apathetic of any real insight or understanding, and so devoid of any useful solutions, would you give that person any of your valuable time? I wouldn't. If you don't have the missing pieces regarding the latest research, the basics of brain chemistry, the statistical facts regarding epidemiology of 21st century patients, and the costliness of the major comorbidities that confound modern conventional approaches and that frustrate MDs all over the world, and if you cannot language this in their own native tongue of biomedicalese, then you simply cannot succeed, and quite frankly, you run a big risk even trying, because once you bomb in front of any MD, whether in front of a group of doctors or merely chatting with one while you wait in the checkout line at the grocery store, you are doomed. You simply have no way to go back and make that right again. Once they hear nonsense from you, simply don't hear anything from you that is of any compelling value, they will never give you their ear again. Period. So the truth is that at whatever price I could choose to charge, you need this information because it does not exist anywhere else in one place, all wrapped up for you to simply open up, plug and play. But the very good news for you today is that I'm not going to charge you the full retail price for this material, and I will now tell you why. The fact that you are still here watching tells me you are serious about success, and therefore you are exactly the kind of person I most want to help and support. Without people like you, I essentially have no career. So here's what I'm going to do. If you are willing to invest in yourself today, I'm willing to match your investment dollar for dollar. I'm going to take $1,500 out of my own pocket, and I'm going to invest in your future success in MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass. Right now, during this webinar, I'm going to give you a 50% discount off the regular retail price and reduce the total price today to just $14.97. And I'm even going to let you get started today with a 3-payment option so that you can spread out payment over 60 days. That means you can get started at a massive 83% discount off the regular retail price and even be done with your presentation by the time the balance is due. Now, your 50% discount is only good for the next hour, and I will tell you why. Simply put, people who aren't serious and who won't take massive action but who instead want to sit on the fence, are really not cut out for big-time mainstream success anyway. If you want it, you need to act like you want it and make a decision. I cannot reward the laggards and tire kickers. But you also have a zero-risk guarantee in making this decision, since I'm going to give you a no-questions, no-hassle, money-back, 30-day guarantee trial period. So there is simply no way for you to lose. If you take action to help your career grow into the mainstream, at a bare minimum, you get 30 days to check it out, risk-free, and if you honestly think that what you see is useless, or not what I somehow told you, or somehow less than what you need to succeed at the highest level, or if you are just dissatisfied in any way, simply contact my support team, and you will get all of your money back with no hassles. So let me tell you how to get started down your own path to mainstream success. Yes, and by the way, I am aware that there's a certain percentage of scumbags who will take advantage of such a guarantee and try to steal as much as they can, already planning to ask for the refund. The truth is, I don't worry about such people because they really don't amount to much, and I'd rather have a guarantee on my work and let people know that I stand behind it. so that if for any reason you feel dissatisfied, you can get your money back, knowing that people with bad character will never amount to anything anyway. So I'd rather stand behind the work that I do and make sure that you know that I stand behind it, so that you know you have nothing to fear in purchasing. On the right-hand side of your screen, you will see a button that has just appeared that will allow you to join the MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass. I want you to click that button right now to join. And when you do, a fully secure checkout page will pop up in another window, and you can fill out that page while you continue to listen to the rest of the webinar. After you fill out the registration page and hit submit, you will be given login credentials and taken to the login page for MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass, where you can enter the username and password that will be sent to you via email. That's it. You're in. Watch the short welcome video and listen to my quick suggestions for how you maximize your learning experience and the implementation process. Now, as you fill out the form and get started, I have a few more surprises for you, which will likely become the most valuable learning experiences of your career and ones that you can refer to over and over as you continue to polish and perfect your own presentations. Have you ever wondered just why so many acupuncturists struggle to find any real impact and inclusion while others seem to find success and income with none of the hassles and troubles that doom the majority to failure? Well, I did wonder, and I discovered just what that difference is, and also wrote and lectured about this topic in explicit terms in a way that no one else has done before in our profession. To me, the cause of all the frustration and failure is actually quite obvious if you will recognize it for what it is, quickly, and then make a conscious choice to go in a different and empowering direction, which, and this is the big hurdle for most people, means going against the majority. You will save yourself in your career years of struggle and frustration and ultimate failure if you will simply heed the following advice. Truly successful people in our business think differently, and they think in a discernibly different way about one key fundamental. So while it's true that presenting to MDs is the ultimate skill for success and income, there is real value in going back and really getting clear on what this one specific point is, a point that causes so much confusion, frustration, and failure, about which most practitioners make up endless excuses to avoid and deny. Peer pressure and the compulsion to conform is strong in any industry or field of endeavor. It really is, which helps to explain why the 80-20 rule is so universally applicable. In any field, there are always a tiny number of people who are more successful than almost all the others combined. The more rarefied the success, the smaller number of winners, and the more disproportionate their results are compared with the majority. This is not news unless you are not paying attention at all to what's happening around you. And if you want to be one of the fortunate few, you need to understand and accept something that the herd simply refuses to even consider. The truth is that in the acupuncture and TCM world, the groupthink thing is even more pronounced. Partly I think this comes from collectivist Asian ideas, which of course influence nearly all students of Asian studies. Partly I think this comes from the third-class status worn by acupuncturists in the modern Western medical system. I see a sort of solidarity movement among students and new practitioners who, out of a backlash against Western materialism, and especially against Western reductionist medical epistemology and the hegemony of the AMA, all choose to swallow the hook of the "we are all one" mantra of the New Age. It is like a miserable club in which no one is willing to do anything different, and the greatest treason is to think logically for yourself about how to overcome what are totally surmountable obstacles. It's the, "oh, if I succeed, others may hate me, so why stir the pot?" This kind of thing. It may also arise from the refusal of almost all students to learn how to read Chinese medical literature in Chinese, and to really go about grasping for oneself the cultural epistemology that makes up holism from China versus our Western model of cognition. Who knows? In any case, and for whatever reasons, there is a total refusal, or perhaps the word is inability, of most acupuncture and TCM people to think autonomously. This is partly why so few people are drawn to learn the actual skills that get them paid. As you already know, that skill is speaking and teaching. But not just speaking and teaching in any unfocused way. Rather, it is speaking and teaching while delivering a sales presentation with proper sales psychology built into it. So many practitioners just don't want this to be true, and so they deny that it is true. They want the world to be different than it is, even though all the evidence clearly confirms that this is an error in thinking. This is no different than drinking poison and thinking it won't kill you simply because, Well, because you don't want it to be true that it will kill you. It doesn't really matter what you want to be true. What matters is what is true in reality. Now, most people have likely heard that public speaking is, for most folks, a fear greater than death. But the reason for this is not because people are scared of being embarrassed or being thought a fool. It really is just because they have so little confidence in doing it well and correctly. Competence gives rise to confidence, and it is impossible to be terrified and confident at the same time. The emotion that accompanies competence and confidence is exhilaration and even gratitude for the opportunity to share your wisdom with others. There is no bloody doubt that Chinese medicine has some pretty valuable wisdom for modern North American patients and physicians. But because the acupuncture and TCM world continues to deny the importance of this essential skill, the small group of practitioners who get it make more in 1 to 4 months than all the other practitioners make individually in a year. This is no fiction. Several of my colleagues make $10,000 to $20,000 a month, all because they understand this one truth. Being better in clinic is not what gets you paid. Speaking is. You only need to be good enough in clinic. The rest has to do with your ability to communicate effectively and to motivate people to take action based on what you want them to do. You can fight this, or you can go about learning how to benefit from it by learning an infinitely learnable skill that will finally get you paid what you feel you deserve. That is why I created presentation, communication, and teacher training skills. This is my A to Z program that gives you the fundamentals that no one teaches in school. With presentation, communication, and teacher training skills, you will get all you will ever need to join the top 1 to 5% of earners by mastery of the skill of presenting. This is not just any course on speaking fundamentals like you would get from the National Speakers Association or Toastmasters. This material teaches you the fundamentals of quality speaking and teaching, of course, but it also gives you the important content that you need to make the right impression. And it is literally all right here and done for you. Look at what you get inside. This valuable material normally costs $15.97, but it is yours free with your membership to MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass. And no, that is not some made-up fictitious price. That is the real price that I charge and that others have paid me for this material. You can go see for yourself when we are done here. Plus, this excellent material is worth 30 CEU PDAs for NCCAOM and California Acupuncture Board credit. Look, you have to get CEUs anyway, so why wouldn't you do it while learning about the best practices for speaking with your mainstream medical colleagues? As a further bonus and gift to you for joining my MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass, I want to give to you your very own copy of Bridging the Chasm, How to Talk to Physicians About What Matters to Them. This is now a minor classic work that I produced with Dr. Paul Rafford, and it is yours free with your membership to MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass. This is simply the one indispensable piece of learning that you simply cannot be without in the modern era. I charge $97 for it, but the truth is it is probably worth more than anything else and everything else you have ever studied from every other CEU provider. Who else is sharing with you the latest research as well as a way to talk about it from the perspective of an MD physician with over 30 years of clinical experience and who even traveled to China to study their research for 6 months on 2 separate fellowships? No one that I know of. In Bridging the Chasm, you will finally get clear on the 7 points most LACs will never learn about creating the career and income they want, and why 21st century medical practice demands that you move toward mainstream inclusion. Plus, the 2 myths that hold back nearly 100% of LACs, and how you can be sure that you are not sabotaging your own opportunity for inclusion. And you get a special bonus section from Dr. Paul Rafford, an absolutely essential primer on how to talk with physicians about acupuncture's effects on brain chemistry according to the newest research in a language they understand and respect. Remember, this comes directly from an MD, and you will need this source to refer to as you create your own presentation. Plus, I will teach you about the one thing that you must do now to build your career in the new medical system of the 21st century. And also exactly why the biggest obstacle to your inclusion is not your clinical skills. Plus, you can use Bridging the Chasm as an invaluable reference for your ongoing dialogue with physicians. Refer to it over and over as your interaction and relationships with physicians continues to grow and develop. You will likely find yourself, as I do, educating them at a level they appreciate, and that you will relish this role and the respect and authority status it gives you. And what would such a thing be worth to you in actual dollars earned? I know what it has earned me, and I can tell you that making 7 to 10,000 a month with no real stress or strain is worth anything you have to do to get there. It really is. And please realize that your school and alumni coordinator will not be the ones who give you your success in your life and career. It is your task to do what is necessary to succeed. You will need this important work as a reference as you educate yourself about brain chemistry, how to handle the issues of placebo when it comes up, and 1,000 other things that Paul and I have put into this outstanding work. It normally retails at $97, but since you are serious, I'm going to match your seriousness by offering you this invaluable work for free as a bonus to further guarantee your success. Together, these two works, presentation, communication, and teacher training skills, and bridging the chasm, retail for more than the entire MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass. And before I forget, I want to tell you about one more fabulous bonus that you get with your membership to MD Referral Masterclass. I have never yet heard anyone else who has discovered this approach. It has to do with insurance billing and coding. First of all, here's what it isn't. This is not another short course on coding, God help all who must do such mindless paperwork. This approach to getting maximum income from insurance payments is so brain-dead, dirt simple, that when I first heard it and had it explained to me, which took less than 30 seconds, I laughed out loud that no one else already teaches it. My guess is that you will too. But here's the catch. Just like it took a physician colleague to reveal such a simple and profitable strategy to me, it also takes a physician to implement it. Now, in case you are discouraged and thinking to yourself, great, so the most profitable way to get paid for my acupuncture services and to get access to all the revenue that would come from accepting insurance is off limits to me unless I can convince someone else to help me, just breathe for a moment and let me give you the upshot as well. First of all, the above statement is absolutely 100% true, and that is exactly why, if you are serious about getting paid, then you damn well better learn how to approach physicians and win them over. That is precisely what I've been teaching you and why you have been learning and studying hard, I hope, for the last 90 minutes. So make sure you understand this proper communication with physicians is the holy grail for our profession right now. But here is the upshot from my brain-dead, dirt-simple way to get maximum revenue and the two great advantages over any other coding and billing training course you could possibly take, as if any of us have time to do such paperwork. First of all, it takes zero effort on your part, as you will not be the one doing the paperwork. And number two, even better, it gives you a pure ace up your sleeve when you go to meet with any physicians who are interested in doing business with you after you have given your presentation. I don't know how much you know about the art and science of negotiation, but when you present someone with a value proposition in which everyone wins and in which the person whose aid you seek can clearly and easily see a substantial gain from your proposition with almost no effort on their part, well then your chances are a hell of a lot higher than if you show up begging for a special favor from somebody who doesn't know you, assuming you ever get your foot in the door at all without offering value in the first place. Look, not only does this one simple trick to getting payment from insurance increase your potential income many times over, it also makes you a much more attractive person for any physician or mainstream administrator to work with. The more you have these kinds of details already ironed out, the more impressed they will be, and the more likely they are to work with you. It's just that simple. Plus, we all know that accepting insurance can dramatically increase the number of potential patients who will consider your service, even without a doctor's order. Stop and think about this for a second. Does anyone really believe that Obamacare in its current form will somehow continue given our very bankrupt national financial situation? Where does anyone actually think all that money is going to come from? And do you really want to wait until essential health benefits start to include acupuncture on a massive scale nationwide? You want to already be in a position when that inevitability finally occurs because it is not likely very far in the future. You want relationships with multiple physicians and you want to be receiving maximum pay for each person you help. This is exactly what this dirt simple insurance trick allows you to do. Now, of course, when I say trick, I'm in no way implying anything deceptive or duplicitous. This is a legal and ethical way to get paid better. It just happens to be one that is somehow totally overlooked by people in our field who have become whipped dogs and who think that bureaucracy and red tape are somehow normal, healthy, productive behaviors. I say nonsense to that. So if you want to know what this super simple, top secret, brain dead approach is, then I suggest you get on board with the MD Referral Masterclass, because that is the only place I can reveal it out of respect for others who have already joined. Oh, and one last bonus for folks who still think they cannot put all of this together. For the first 25 people who take action and get started with the MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass, I am going to personally review your presentation and give you guidance and feedback during a live one-on-one call. I am so committed to the success of those who want to break through to the mainstream, I will donate one phone call in which I will give you exact pointers, commentary, and feedback on how to strengthen your talk before you go give it. I charge as much as $397 for a consulting call, so throw that onto the heap of bonuses that you get, and please understand that with all I have put together for you, your video template and presentation implementation model, your presentation communication teacher training skills module, your bridging the chasm module, your super secret insurance billing and coding trick, and your free consulting call and review of your presentation, you really cannot lose. So if you are already looking to the mainstream as the next and greatest frontier for our profession, and if you already know that you want to be in the vanguard of practitioners who has influence and income working at the highest level of medicine, then there really is no way you can fail. Everything is in your favor right now, and all it takes is for you to commit and carry through. And my colleagues and I have already done all the hard work for you, so that all you really need to do is follow a proven system that can make you a success in mainstream medicine. The bonus material itself is worth more than the entire cost of your entire training program, and my brain-dead, simple trick to getting insurance payment is worth more than any other single piece of information you have ever gotten about how to get paid. How's that for generous? The average acupuncture and Chinese medical education costs between $50,000 and $100,000 in tuition, give or take, plus the 3 or more years of lost revenue that you suffer by going to school instead of actually working for income. So let's just calculate that at, $2,000 per month times 3 years. That is an extra $72,000. That means altogether your education costs you around $110,000 to $180,000 or more, and that doesn't even include the price of starting a practice. And yet it does not prepare you even to make $1 once you have gone into private practice. Stop and think about the value of this material, which is the entire key to getting paid, and which you learn nothing about through your entire expensive schooling education. You are literally paying somewhere around between less than 1% to 2% of the cost of your education for the material that is worth more to your career success than all of your schooling combined. Ignore this fact at peril of your own ruin. When you join MD Referral Masterclass, I will help you to create your very own successful presentation to physicians by swiping and ethically stealing the very best stuff that my colleague and I have put together across not less than 7 years of research, studying, and testing. If you want reliable streams of patient traffic to your clinic from MD referral sources, this implementation program will teach you how to get them. When you join today before the deadline, I'm going to extend to you a massive $1,500 discount and reduce the price from $29.97 to just $14.97, and even let you pay 1/3 today and the balance in 60 days. But this offer is only good for the next hour, as I have said, because it is my way of getting you off the fence. You get my 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can go through the entire program without any risk whatsoever. All you have to do is follow along on the video template and create your own slides, and just be sure to give credit where it is due. Then start practicing in front of the mirror or on camera. That's it. All you need to do at this point is click the Add to Cart button on the right, fill out the registration form, and you will have instant access to the MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass and Implementation Program, along with your 4 bonuses, and if you change your mind at any point, you have my 30-day no-hassle money-back guarantee, so you don't need to feel any stress about your decision. So at this point, my presentation is now done, and you have made it to the end. I want to thank you for your attention and for taking your success and career seriously enough to stick with me to the end. You cannot have a successful practice without being able to attract traffic to your clinic. The majority of the people who need your services are being seen in mainstream medicine because they don't know about or cannot fully trust the legitimacy of what we do. Many of these patients are seriously dissatisfied with the outcomes of their care in the hands of conventional medicine. Many physicians treating these difficult-to-treat patients are fed up to here with their inability to help these folks and are desperate for something that can improve their outcomes and relieve their frustration and that of their patients. The best way to get these people to give you a shot is to get their doctor to order them to go see an acupuncturist. In order for that to happen, physicians must be able to understand and trust you and to come to their own conclusion that you are not a New Age basket case. In order for you to be classed among the good guys, you must be able to talk their language and relate what you do to their model of medicine. Don't fight the above facts. Use them to your advantage. The good news is that this is now easier than ever if you will just take a little time and effort to get it under your belt. All my materials will give you more than you will ever need to create steady referral sources from multiple physicians. If you cannot see the value of this now and for the remainder of your career, then I apologize because I have wasted your time. Or maybe it is the case that you simply don't live in the same world that I and others have to inhabit, where offering value must come first before one can expect value in return. But if you do get it, your choice is actually pretty simple. You can keep going as if you never heard this message, or you can get started in making yourself an expert presenter so that in the months and years to come, there will be no end of traffic to your clinic. You have seen that there is a simple formula for addressing MDs where they are so that they trust and respect and refer patients to you. And by now it is clear that the MD Referral Communication and Successful Presentation Masterclass will show you exactly how to create your own presentations and give you all the tools and tips, facts and data that you will ever need to be a superstar acupuncturist in your own career, geographic location, and specialty area of expertise working with mainstream physicians and patients. Look, you need this material, and you will use it for the remainder of your life and career. Why would anyone ignore the possibility of making it to the highest level? And don't forget, my colleague and I have already done all the really hard work for you. My last question to you before I sign off is this, and please really do stop and think and answer to yourself honestly. Ask yourself seriously, what exactly are you going to do without this knowledge and skill, and where else would you go to get it? Think carefully, but think quickly, because you have 1 hour to claim your 50% discount and save $1,500 on this invaluable training and implementation program. So I'd like to invite you one last time to participate in this invaluable masterclass and implementation program so you can start building your practice and reputation with referrals from MDs, and so you can change your life in the process. I have made this a completely safe decision for you without any risk whatsoever. Click the button at the right of your screen to get started. Thank you so much for joining me here on this webinar, and I look forward to helping you build a successful and influential practice in collaboration with mainstream medical professionals, and I hope to hear your success story in the near future. Thanks.